This young lady is your sister,
Yes.
half-sister, and your mother.
Yes.
It is your claim that, what's your first name?
Crystal.
Crystal assaulted you with a rock.
Yes.
Crystal says, didn't touch you. Had an argument, but didn't touch you. So let's go to Crystal. What was the argument about?
I went to claim my mother's belongings. At the time, my mother was living in a tent because my sister kicked her out of her home.
Okay, so you were living with your daughter.
Yes, it was.
How long had you been living with your daughter?
A couple of months.
And who else lives in your daughter's house?
It was me and her boyfriend, Vaughn.
That would be you?
Yes.
Who pays the rent?
They did.
What caused you to have to move in with your daughter?
I became homeless.
Okay. It was you, and according to what I read in the complaint, you and several dogs.
Yes.
How many dogs?
3.
How do you support yourself?
I breed those dogs for a living.
What kind of dogs do you breed?
Pugs.
How much do you make from breeding pugs as a live?
$500 a piece, a couple thousand a year, sometimes up to $20,000.
Well, that's not a steady source of income.
No, ma'am, it's not, but I've been disabled for several years.
Do you receive disability?
I do now.
You do now?
I do now, but at that time, no, ma'am, I was not.
Okay. Now, you were living with your daughter, moved in with your daughter, and according to Crystal, your daughter asked you to leave.
Yes, ma'am.
When did you move in?
I'm trying, around
Do you remember?
February.
Yeah, I'd say about February.
February of 2012?
Yeah.
Did you have your own room?
No,
Where did you sleep?
I slept on the couch.
And when did you ask your mother to leave?
It was April
Tell me why.
because they had the 3 dogs. She also had 2 puppies. Also, so it was 5 dogs. And she had 3 other people with us living there.
Who were the 3 other people?
Her friends.
What friends?
They
friends.
were our friends, mine and hers. But they were not living there because of me. Anything that happened in that house was consulted with my daughter.
Okay. So, which is her right at some point to say to you, it's time to go.
Of course.
Right. And that was in April. And according to Crystal, when your daughter asked or told you to leave, you moved into a tent?
Yes, ma'am.
Where?
In a national park.
Crystal, where were you living?
In Anne Arundel County.
With whom?
A friend of mine and a woman that we knew.
And your mother couldn't live with you, I assume.
No, ma'am.
Why not?
I was helping her raise her son, the woman that we were living with, and it wasn't possible.
Okay. When your mother left your sister's house, I assume she called you.
Mm-hmm.
How did you feel about your sister throwing your mother out?
Hurt. This was not the first time at all
That what?
that she had told my mother that she had to leave. It had been my sister has lived with me and my mother. She had never been kicked out. This is my sister. And we had been staying there several times prior to this
You had been
incident.
staying with your sister.
Yes, and she has kicked us out a couple of times.
Do you work?
Yeah.
Do you work?
No. I am currently unemployed.
We just moved to New Jersey.
But you work.
Yeah, now I don't because I'm trying to find a job. But I did work when I was in Maryland.
And what kind of work did you do?
I worked at Sonic.
What is that?
It's like a restaurant.
And that's how you paid your rent.
Yeah, he paid his rent by his Social Security. I helped him with his bills and everything else that he needed.
So really, when your mother and sister moved in with the dogs...
My sister did not live with us then.
No, not then, but she had lived with you before.
Yeah.
With your boyfriend.
Before, yeah.
And he paid the rent.
Right.
So he was really nice about letting them come.
Right, yeah, because he could have just said no.
She mentions the 2 puppies I had.
Which one of them was
She
hers?
doesn't mention the 7 that were sold at $500 a piece, and every dime of that money went in for food, for
Things that
toilet
weren't
paper,
getting paid for.
the laundry that it took me $100 to clean up in the nasty bathroom that you couldn't find a sink to when we first moved in.
Great. Okay, now, Miss Salas, now I painted a picture for myself of what this family dynamic is.
It's a mess.
Now tell me about the assault. When did it take place?
It was May 2nd.
May 2nd. What time?
I would say about 12.
In the
at
afternoon?
night. No, at night. Well, 12 in the morning.
Tell me what happened.
Please.
I was, my friend came over to retrieve her stuff that she was living with also.
So somebody else was also living with you?
Yeah, I kicked them out with them. And she came to get her stuff, so I let her, of course. And she went to the back door. That's where I seen Crystal. And I asked her what she wanted, and she said she had to use
You
the
asked
bathroom.
Crystal what she wanted?
Yeah, and she said she had to use the bathroom. So, of course, I let her, because she's my sister. And everything was fine, and I went to pick up my speakers off my couch. And out of the corner of my eye, I seen her smash a rock into my head. And that's when my head started bleeding. My boyfriend is a witness. I have pictures here.
Were you in the room?
Yes.
Could you come up and tell me, please, what you saw? First, tell me your name.
Vaughn.
Tell me, Vaughn, what you saw.
Basically, I seen her hit her in the head with a rock, and then after they left, she started bleeding to death. That's when I called 911, because I was scared. That's when they took off.
Both Crystal and your mother?
I actually didn't know my mother was even around because it was the girl and my sister. That's the only two people I even saw.
Did you call the police?
Yes, I did.
Okay, Vaughn, you can sit down now.
After she hit me in the head of the rock, she called me. She said, "You stupid, you put my mother out." And I told my boyfriend to call 911, and that's when she took off with the girl.
I'd like to see the photographs, please.
Jan.
I'm going to give you a chance. Do you have a police report?
No, I do not have the police report. They would not release it to me.
Was your sister questioned by the police?
Not at all.
No, because she took off.
Took off to where?
I don't know. When she hit me and I called the police, she took off running.
When
the
did
police
you
said
move?
they knew who she was, and they tried to find her. They couldn't find her.
Do you know where she lives now?
No, because she moves every
Because
other
we
week,
were homeless.
so I don't know where she is.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Now tell me about the argument. She wouldn't give you the stuff, and so what did you do?
Left.
You left.
Yes.
You and your attitude left, just left.
And later today,
I also have 2 children that I get no assistance with either.
She didn't make those 2 children she's taking care of. You did. You can't afford to take care of 3 children. Don't have them.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Anna Mae Saul says her sister, Crystal Witt, assaulted her with a rock during an attempt to pick up their mother's possessions.
Okay. Now, Crystal, now you can tell me your version of the events of May 2nd.
Okay. Well, I was there with someone else, a friend of mine, I guess, who also lived there. When I got the call saying that my mother was living in the woods, I went to go get our stuff.
What stuff did you go to get?
There were certain things like clothes, stuff that I knew my mother needed then and there that I could not just take to the woods. Like I can't take an air conditioning and everything else that was in the house.
Well, what did you go to? Look at me, dear. First of all, how old is this child that you are helping to raise?
He was like 3 or 4.
What do you mean he was like 3 or 4?
He was
If you're
3
helping to raise him, I
turning
would know whether he was 3 or 4.
He was 3 turning 4.
And what does his mother do?
She's on disability.
And what do you do?
Nothing at this moment. Student.
Keep going.
Anyways,
May 2nd, you were there with a friend to retrieve stuff. Go.
she didn't want to give us the stuff.
And?
We got into an argument.
And? How did her
And
head
that's
get
it.
bloody?
Excuse me?
Want to see the pictures?
Yeah, that's
How
I'd
did
love
her
to.
head get bloody?
I don't know. I want to ask her the same thing.
No, I don't want you to ask her. I'm asking you.
I don't know.
You don't know. Now tell me about the argument. She wouldn't give you the stuff, and so what did you do?
Left.
You left.
Yes.
You and your attitude left, just left.
Yes, ma'am.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Of course I'm going to be mad. This is my sister, and I love her.
I just got reunited with them, too.
I thought I was going to lose her. She could have gone an epileptic shock.
I didn't put my hands on her.
She was bleeding.
She never put her hands on me.
I can sit here and say I love her, but I hate her.
I'm just done. I'm not talking to them no more.
I hope she dies.
I don't think that there'll ever be a resolution between the two of them.
And now, the next case.
All parties in the matter of Lopez versus Lopez. Step forward, please.
Teresa Lopez is suing her son, Christopher Lopez, for the return of money loaned so he could buy a home.
Mr. Lopez, who is this?
This is my friend Joseph Rizzo.
Let me outline what I've managed to piece together from your complaint and your answer. This is your son.
Yes, it is.
You are divorced from his father for approximately 3 years.
Yes.
And pursuant to the judgment of divorce, you received alimony and a settlement. Service requires that people who receive alimony treat that as income, because it is income. According to the complaint and answer, you didn't realize that you had to file tax returns and declare the alimony that you were receiving as income. So you didn't, for that 3-year period, file your tax returns declaring that as income.
No, I assumed child support and alimony.
Well, child support doesn't have to be reported as income, but alimony does.
I was unaware of that.
So you decided to call the Internal Revenue Service and let them know that you wanted to start paying them. Had they notified you in any way before you called them?
No.
What prompted you to call them?
It was a conversation I was having with my parents, and my dad had asked me if I had filed yet, and I said, filed for what?
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Teresa Lopez says her son, Christopher Lopez, owes for the return of money loaned so he could buy a home. Christopher claims the money was a gift.
Now, you did ultimately work out a payment plan with the IRS. What kind of plan did you work out with them?
To send them $50 a month? At that
And
time,
how much did you owe them?
$3,000.
That's pretty reasonable of them. Without penalty?
Correct.
Very nice. But at the time, right before you made this settlement with the IRS, you had the $3,000 in the bank. You had a lot more than that in the bank. Because according to you, right before you called the IRS, your son convinced you to lend him $15,000. So you took out the $15,000 from your bank, then called the IRS and worked out this payment plan with them. Your son wanted the $15,000 because he wanted to buy a house. That's what you said in your complaint, correct?
Correct.
And he wanted to show the bank that he had assets enough to get a mortgage. So far, correct?
No.
Well, what did you need the $15,000 for?
It was her idea to give me the money, Your Honor.
For what?
A house.
For a house?
Yes.
Well, for a house to buy or for a house to get a mortgage?
A house to buy.
And you didn't need a mortgage?
I needed a mortgage as well.
Of course you needed a mortgage. And in order to get a mortgage, you have to show that you have assets. I read your answer. And the whole idea was, according to you, that you would give him this money so that when he applied for a mortgage, it would show that he had cash in the bank. And then slowly he would return it to you. So far, am I reading your complaint correctly?
Yes.
So you took the money out, put it in his bank. So in addition to other things, the IRS didn't know it was there. And then he applied for a house and a mortgage and started to give you back the money, right?
Correct.
But according to you, he didn't give you back the last $5,000.
Correct.
And that's what you want me to get from him.
Correct.
That's not happening. Because have I said anything that was wrong so far? I just want to know. I've relayed the story the way I read it in your complaint.
I have mine a little different.
Well, just tell me where I was mistaken.
Well, when I received the $15,000, I hadn't spoken with the IRS yet. I spoke with the IRS after I gave him the money.
Yes, I understand that.
And I
understand that you waited until you gave him the money to call the IRS.
And I sent the IRS $1,000, and the $15,000 actually was for him to hold until I settled everything with the IRS.
I got it. I understand that. I wasn't as blunt as you just were.
I didn't know.
I understand that.
I didn't know if they were going to take all that money from me. My ex-husband had handled all the affairs, and Christopher.
I'm just telling you, you were smart enough to know you wanted that money out of the bank so that when you called the IRS wasn't going to slap a lien and take that money, which they would do. So you were smart enough. You got some advice from somebody to take that money. It's not in your name anymore, and you gave it to him. Now, you said you gave it to him for a dual purpose. Now you tell me you acknowledge you took it out so that the IRS wouldn't attach it. That's one thing. But you say you gave it to him for the purpose of defrauding a bank. When a bank asks for, what are your assets? And he says, I have $15,000. They wouldn't give him a mortgage if he had $15,000 that he had to give back to his mother. That means he doesn't have $15,000.
I didn't know he was going to purchase a house or try to purchase a house.
Well, let's see if that's what you say. This is your complaint. In June 2011, right before I called the IRS, my son talked me into putting $15,000 into his account. He said that this way he could show the realtor and his loan agent that he had the money to buy a house. That's what you said. I wanted to help my son, so I obliged and deposited the money in his account. That's what you said. What do you mean you didn't know that he was going to use that to buy a house?
He was planning on coming into some other money, so I wasn't like I was going to try to defraud the bank. He was going to be coming into some money because of his job. He was changing jobs, and he was hoping for a lot of opportunities to come up for him.
Let me tell you what the rule is. People come into court and ask the court to judge fairly law, and Moore has created a doctrine. And that doctrine is, we call it in the law, the clean hands doctrine, which means that litigants, when they come before the court and ask for help, like you are, have to come into court with clean hands, not having committed some wrong, and then say, well, I was wrong to do what I did, but he was more wrong, so I should get my money. You attempted to defraud the Internal Revenue Service by taking money out of your bank account and moving it so that they couldn't attach it, despite the fact that you owed taxes. So you were going to get in trouble. You have a house?
No.
You have property?
No.
Well, then I don't know what they can attach other than this money that you had in the bank. And second, according to your own statement, You gave your son this money so that he could tell his mortgage agent that he had more money than he really had, because he was supposed to give it back to you. Did your mother sign a letter that she was making a gift to you?
Yes, she did.
May I see the letter?
I don't have a copy of it.
Why not?
The loan agent, she misplaced it. She said it was no longer needed because the time amount had passed.
So when your mother gave you this money and it was put in your bank, and in order to see that they wouldn't trace it back, you said to your mother, I need a letter from you that this is a gift and you don't expect to be repaid.
Yes.
Right?
I was just unaware of the whole...
Am I correct?
Yes.
Don't tell me you were unaware. And that was a lie, because your mother now says, I expect it to be repaid. Right?
No.
Well, you started to pay your mother back the money, even though you weren't supposed to?
No, she would call from time to time and say, I need this amount for X amount of something. She didn't really say why, but she said, I'll reimburse you the money when you find a house, so you have enough to get it. So I was lending her the money back, and she was going to pay me.
Goodbye, folks. Come into court with clean hands. See ya.
Everything was totally turned around in there. That is not how everything happened.
It was fair and just, and I believe everything happened the way it's supposed to happen.
Trying to evade the IRS or defraud a bank, it wasn't like that at all.
From what I know, it was for a house, but I guess she had ulterior motives that she didn't want me to be aware of.
The original purpose was for him to hold that money for me because I did not have a bank account.
I think once I started realizing what was happening, that's when I was like, I need this money and you're not going to get it.
I was going through a divorce. I was going through a lot at that time, and I just asked him to hold it for me.
She was trying to defraud the IRS?
Well, we haven't seen each other at all.
Done for now?
Well, he is my son.
The best. Hope the best for her, actually.
He is my son. I have a forgiving heart. He's my son.
If the rapture happens, maybe.
And now, the next case.
All parties in the matter of Nicholson versus Johnson. Step forward.
Carl and Nancy Nicholson are suing golfer Ken Johnson for breaking their car windshield when he hit an errant shot.
Mr. Johnson, you're a golfer.
Yes.
An avid one?
I used to be.
On what date was the window of your car shattered?
What day was that?
May 9th.
And is the car in your name?
My name.
Your name. So what are you doing here?
I presented the case. I filed the case at the courthouse with her. She put my name on it, so I had to show up, basically.
Oh, well, you could sit down.
Thank you.
Who parked the car?
My son, Nicholas.
Nicholas, up. Now, Nicholas, where did you park your car?
On Campus Drive with the rest of the students' park.
Is that a formal parking lot?
It's actually on the street.
Now, on May 9th, you were playing golf.
That's correct.
Who were you playing with?
3 other guys. We were playing in a tournament.
Okay, so this is what happened. Your car window got smashed.
Yes.
And you have reason to believe, and Mr. Johnson actually doesn't deny the fact that it was his ball with these markings that you found in your car that caused the damage to your car. Mr. Johnson's argument seems to be that when you park near a golf course, you assume the risk.
That's correct.
And he says that by assuming the risk of parking near a golf course, it becomes your responsibility to fix the damage. That's your
responsibility
argument.
when he walks on the
Sure.
golf course.
Sir.
I thought I heard something. I couldn't actually believe my own ears that something was coming out of this side of the room.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Carl and Nancy Nicholson claim golfer Ken Johnson broke their car windshield when he hit an errant shot.
Now, Mr. Johnson, have you ever played miniature golf?
Yes.
What would happen if you decided to tee up on a miniature golf course, take a good full swing, the golf ball, instead of going through the little windmill and through, the waterworks, hit somebody in the eye and blinded them that was walking across the street from the miniature golf course? Would that be the fault of the person who was walking in the street?
Not that I'm aware of.
No, it would be your fault. It would be your fault. They don't have to go around the street because of the miniature golf course. You have a responsibility when you play a sport to play it in a reasonable manner. So, if in the example that I just gave you, if my child were blinded by your golf ball, I'd own your house and your car and probably everything else you owned, unless you had real good insurance. So it becomes a relatively easy case for me because there's no issue with regard to whether or not that golf ball is yours. Mr. Nicholson here was parked on a public street.
I have photos that show that all the students park their cars within 6 feet of the golf course.
Well, I want to see if it's on a public street, sir.
Yeah, it's a public street.
So what? So I'd like to see the pictures.
These are all the photos.
Is what you're trying to sense that if you park on a public street, and the public street happens to be near a shooting range, and you get in your car and somebody isn't holding their gun actually properly, and instead of shooting at the target, they get you in the head, that they have assumed the risk because the business there is a shooting range?
Well, they've assumed the risk by parking in the wrong location.
Well, just a second. Why is this the wrong location? This is where they are allowed to park.
But they take precautions in that, and they park the vehicles behind, let's say, a shooting range or whatever. So chances of that happening are not real good because most of the weapons point downrange, and they have marshals that regulate that. Also, on the back of the scorecard, you can see, and those photos show that they have protective fences. Why do they have protective fences up, especially on hole number 1, which parallels Santa Anita? Hole number 2 parallels Campus Drive. And I explained to the golf course when they came out and asked the question, I said, you guys should have a protective fence up there.
No, you take that up with the golf course. You were playing on the golf course.
But we have errant shots.
It wasn't errant. That's the word. Errant. You know what the word errant connotes, sir? Errant connotes accident. You're meant to go straight and you're hooked to the left. You know what I'm talking about?
Right.
And so that is an accident because you didn't mean to do that.
Yeah,
right,
it wasn't intentional.
No, it wasn't intentional.
It wasn't reckless.
No, it wasn't intentional.
Right.
It was an accident. You certainly didn't intend for that golf ball to either damage their car or blind my child, right? You didn't intend that, but it's your accident.
Right.
And if you feel as if, since it's your accident, and you feel as if the golf course should be responsible for not having a protective fence, sue him. He didn't have to sue him. You sue him. You say, I was just forced by that lady with the lace collar to pay for his windshield. And it's really your fault because you should have had a protective fence up. So you're going to pay me what I had to pay him. But he just parked his car on a public street. What does he have to do with your errant golf ball? How much was it to fix the windshield?
$375.
How much?
$385.
Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all. Thank you.
All these are excused. You may step out.
I pulled a shot and went into the trees, and I don't know what happened to it.
He hit the golf ball into my son's car.
I just couldn't put the ball where I wanted to that day.
You need to be accountable for your behavior.
Just, one of those days. That's golf.
You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Ms. Newman, this used to be your boyfriend, according to your complaint, and you say that he vandalized your car with you in it. He had a hissy fit over something. His defense is that you're nuts and it never happened. So why don't you tell me what you recall of the events of the evening of June 8th?
We went to a party, his sister, his friend, as we went to my friend's party, and it was almost 2. We went to the store to get more beer because we ran out. They asked me to drive.
Listen to me. Slowly. Like it's not something you memorized.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
The night of June 8th, you were at a party, and it's 2 o'clock and you wanted some more beer. You hadn't had enough. Who was driving?
I was.
And you had been drinking?
No, ma'am.
So you hadn't been drinking at all?
No, ma'am.
Great. So you were just taking them out for a beer run?
No, my friend actually asked me to go, and Brandon went with us. My friend was going to pay for the beer. It was 5 minutes before 2. The gas station's right down the street. My friend and Brandon walked into the gas station. He asked the guy, is it too late to get beer? And I guess Brandon walked out with 2 cases, tried to get in my car. I said, you're not getting in my car.
Why would you not let him in your car?
Because he stole the beer.
How did you know that?
Because my friend was still sitting there trying to talk to the dude. And he walked out and he said, I tried to pay for it. Brandon walked out with it. So I would not let him in my car.
Okay. Mr. Young, on June 8th, did you take the 2 cases of beer?
No, I did not go and steal any beer. I went and purchased it right up at the front desk like a normal person would.
Great. Who purchased it?
I do believe it was a Shell.
And it's located where?
Colton, I do believe.
Is that right?
It's in Grand Terrace. It was a Shell gas station, though.
No, he didn't get in the car.
I wouldn't let him get in my car.
And where did you go?
I went back to the party after me and my friend talked to the owner of the place and asked if we could pay for the beer. He said no, he didn't want that. He was just going to call the cops. So we went back to the party, me and my friend, and his friend was still in my car, passed out sleeping like he was through the whole party.
So you actually spoke to the owner of the Shell station,
yes,
or the person who was working there that night?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, Mr. Young, so if I were to contact the Shell station and ask them whether someone had taken a couple of cases of beer on the 8th of June, they would, of course, tell me no.
Yeah, they would tell you no.
Okay, so you went back to the party, and?
He showed back up because it's like 2 streets away. I told him he had to leave. His friend left with him. I tried to get his sister.
Which friend? That would be you?
Yes,
you left with him?
Yes.
Were you with him when he got the beer at the Shell station?
Yes, I was.
Okay, great. You can step outside for a moment. I'll call you back in a minute. Okay, so go ahead.
His friend was asleep the whole time in the car when this happened, but I asked his sister to leave with him. I didn't want any part of his sister either because his sister had been drinking and gets a little crazy when she drinks. She would not leave. She said she was not going to leave Azzy there. So I waited for like an hour at the party, and then I took Azzy and her home because they live like a street away from each other.
You took who home?
Azzy and his sister.
Okay, go ahead.
And then we went by his house. He was not there. His sister asked me to go and look for him, so I drove right down the street. That's where he was. I turned around, let her out. She stood in front of my car on a railroad track, would not let me leave. So then he came to my car. He swung at me. He missed. He tried to pull my keys out of the ignition. Instead, he pulled the windshield wiper thing where you turn it on and off all the way out. And then he bent my windshield wiper all the way. So I had to drive home at 3 o'clock in the morning with my windshield wipers on and off, going on and off. They would not turn off.
Okay, now I'll hear you.
Alrighty then, so beginning of the day started off, we all went out to the beach, had a good time.
Not interested.
All right. So we went.
Not interested.
Bought beer.
Now I'm going to tell you where we're going to pick up. We're going to pick up when she wouldn't let you in the car at the Shell station.
Well, she did let me in her car. She backed up right into a pump at the Shell station, turned around the corner, went to the bus stop where I was sitting at. She picked me up.
Just a second. Wait. Now, she had come to the Shell station with you in the car.
Yes.
But she left with you not in the car.
Yes.
What would be the reason for that?
I don't know. It was all up to her. She was the one driving.
No, I'm just asking you. She took you there to get beer. According to you, you got beer.
Yep.
And paid for it.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be normal for you to get back in the same car.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So is there any reason that you can think of why she took off, leaving you there with the beer that you had just purchased?
Because recently during the day, we have been arguing all day about how I do not want to be with her anymore. Even though I was not her boyfriend, we were having sexual relationship together, just giving the dog a bone.
I'm asking you, she took you to get beer.
Yep.
You weren't having a fight in the car. There was no fight in the car.
Yeah, but we were arguing all day.
I don't care if you were arguing all day. You weren't fighting in the car, and she was doing you a favor to take you to get more beer.
Yeah.
Now she's there with you. She's got your drunk boyfriend in the car, passed out in the back, so he's actually useless as a witness. I don't know why you brought him here, maybe for some comic relief.
No, well, because she says I damaged her car. He was with me. He walked home with me.
No. He was drunk, according to her. According to you, he was drunk.
Yeah.
Right. So you can't really think of a logical reason why she would have taken off from the gas station.
We're all pretty drunk. She gets mad.
Including her.
Yeah, including her. We were all drinking.
Okay.
Azzy over here, my little sister right here, me and myself, and my friend Raymond.
Try not to talk over me.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, it doesn't work to talk over me anyway. They just cut your mic off. Then you look stupid standing there moving your mouth and nothing comes out.
Yeah.
I'm really good at making you look stupid. If you want to act stupid, I can really give you a boost up.
Sweet.
Easy. It's my specialty. For wise guys. Cool. I specialize in wise guys. That's why I've been here so long. People sort of like to see wise guys get beat up a little bit.
Yeah.
And I do it for sport. So, let's get to it. So she backed her car up and then came around and...
She proceeded to pick me up.
Picked you up from where?
The bus stop, which was right around the corner.
Okay, so she picked you up at the bus stop.
Yep.
And at that point, you were alone at the bus stop.
Yep.
With the 2 cases of beer?
Yes, I had 118 here and 118 here. And I was sitting at the bus stop at the time, so it was sitting next to each other.
Is there any reason why you were sitting at the bus stop?
Because she just took off without me.
Okay. Were you waiting for a bus?
No, it was 2 o'clock at night. I didn't know what I was going to do. I was going to sit there and just drink until I passed out.
I would too.
Fine.
Hey.
So she took off without you, but then she came and picked you up.
Yep,
and then what happened?
She came pick me up. We proceeded to go to her friend's house, and she's sitting there. She's yelling at me. I'm like, all right, I don't want to deal with it no more. Check it out. I'm done with you. I'm going to take my friend, and we're going to leave. Do you politely think you can take my little sister and her friend home because they're completely intoxicated? She agrees. She's like, all right, we could do that, whatever. Me and my friend, by the time we get to my house, I hear her car zooming down the street, drops off my little sister, and that's the last thing I heard from her until I get subpoenaed. Well, not subpoenaed, but served by her and one of her guy friends. I don't know.
Okay, fine. So that, according to you, you had no other contact with her after she took your sister home.
Yep.
Great. Now stand up. Tell me your last name.
Morgan.
Were you in the car with the plaintiff?
Not when they did that, the beer, whatever, and I was not that intoxicated.
I didn't ask you that.
Okay.
What I asked you was, were you in the car with the plaintiff when this incident happened with the windshield wiper?
Oh, yes, I was.
And then what happened?
Okay, so I was sitting in the passenger seat, and, everyone was yelling, and I was sitting there, and I was like, I just want to go home. I don't want anything to do with it.
I want you to do me a favor. I want you to try telling me the story without using the filler word like.
Oh, okay. So I was in the car, and...
Think hard about what you're saying, because light is going to peer through there.
Okay. Okay, so I was in the car, and then, I don't know, they were arguing, bickering and stuff.
Where was he?
He was outside of the car, and then she was in the driver's seat, and I was in the passenger seat. And they were fighting, and all I saw was his hand go in, and then, like, he was reaching for something, and then the thing just popped out, and the windshield wipers were just going all crazy.
Okay, good. Sit down. Were you in the car?
Yes, ma'am.
Come. Go.
So we were in the car.
Look at me, and I have to tell you something. Sadly for you, you have a little condition that when you get nervous, your chest gets red. Look at me. Doesn't happen to everybody, but it happens to some people. It's sad for them because people who are talking to them, like a judge, can always tell when they're nervous. Got it?
Mm-hmm.
Great. Now, she was driving you home.
Mm-hmm.
Not a yes or no.
Yes.
She was driving you home. Who else was in the car?
Azzy.
This young lady was in the car.
Yes. And Bailey.
So just the two of them and you.
Mm-hmm.
Where was the young man with the interesting hairdo who I just put out of the courtroom?
He was walking home with my brother.
Were either your brother or this young man carrying any beer?
I believe my brother was, yes.
Now you're going to tell me what happened.
My brother and Bailey were arguing, and I basically was freaking out because Bailey was drinking and she was driving. And
that's Bailey. So she was drinking and driving. Your brother was outside the car because he and his friend were walking home, and they were arguing.
Correct.
And then?
And then I walked home, and then
well,
she
what
drove
happened
away.
when they were arguing?
I didn't see him.
Right. Now sit down. But that's a little bit of a different story that your sister tells than the story you told me.
Which was my story, that I walked home?
Just a second. It was a different story.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Bailey Newman says her ex-boyfriend, Brandon Young, purposely broke her windshield wipers during a drunken argument. Brandon insists the incident never happened.
Now we're going to get Mr. Interesting Hairdo back in here. Now, Mr. Young's sister has just recounted for me the events as she remembers it that evening. Mm-hmm. So let me tell you where we're going to pick up from you. Okay. You and Mr. Young are walking home. Mm-hmm. Who was carrying beer?
He was and I was. We're switching off.
So you had already purchased the beer?
Yes.
And the two of you started to walk home?
Yes.
Now I'd like you to tell me what happened when you were walking home.
Well, we were walking home and we just kept walking, and then we saw them drive by. They dropped Brandon's little sister off, and that was it. What you want to say?
That was it, but that's not what sister says. Brandon's little sister says that at the time there was lots of arguing.
Oh, yeah,
that's what she says.
Yeah, there was arguing.
You left that out.
Oh, there was arguing, yes.
Well, I want you to tell me about the arguing.
It was just going back and forth between both of them.
Explain that to me. How was that? She was driving.
Yes.
And where was Mr. Young?
On the sidewalk with me.
Okay. So that he was closest to her, or he was closest to this young lady?
To Azzy.
Driver's side.
Driver's side, yes.
I don't want you to say anything. If I wanted you to testify, I'd be posing my questions to you. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you think this was going to be easy? You have a sick look on your face.
I always look sick.
Sit down.
Okay.
Bunch of goofballs. You owe $635. Judgment for the plaintiff, that's all.
What is our excuse? You may step out.
As soon as I found out what he was about,
This woman has a scorn right now.
I left. I have a new boyfriend, so...
Yeah, she wanted to come see me. She called me up and told me...
He's crazy. I'm the one who dropped that.
Just come see me.
He's calling me day after this happened, trying to be with me, so...
Nothing. I hope she gets a life. It leaves me alone.
Not to be with stupid guys like that.
Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
What's your first name?
Kelsey.
You have a girlfriend?
Not anymore.
What was her name?
Taylor.
How long were you and Taylor together? From when to when?
From about February to around June-ish.
And were you exclusive with each other?
Yes.
Okay. This is your lawsuit. You have a truck?
Yes.
What kind?
It's a Toyota Tacoma truck.
That your son was driving?
Yes.
And it is your claim that Kelsey, because he was angry at your son over this Taylor, caused damage to your truck?
Correct.
And Kelsey says, I didn't do that. The reason his mother is here is because he's too young to pay for the damage, right?
Correct.
First name?
Nicholas.
Do you go to the same school? What grade are you in?
I'm a freshman in college.
And you?
Junior in high school.
Okay. When did this incident happen with the truck?
March 15th, 2012.
Nicholas, the first thing you have to know is when you're coming to court with your mother, who was suing over damage to a truck that you were driving, that the judge is going to say to you on what date did this happen. Then your mother shouldn't have to point out to you on a piece of paper, if you're a freshman in college, what the date was that you're here to talk about. Do you understand?
Yes.
That means being prepared. Right?
Correct.
Okay. And in March of 2012, you were still in high school.
Yes.
And you went to different high schools.
Yes.
And you were a sophomore. He was a senior.
No, I was a junior. I got held back.
You got held back because of?
Well, I moved to Washington and it different credits there. I would be a senior if I still lived in California.
Okay. Tell me what happened on March 15th.
Well, I was leaving school because my grandmother had died like 2 days before, so I had to go to the mall to go get clothes for the funeral. As I was leaving, I was walking out and with my friend.
You left school early?
15 minutes early, I got checked out by my dad over phone call.
And what about your friend? What was your friend leaving for?
Because he was going with me.
Why?
I was just having a rough day.
Okay, so both you and your friend got checked out.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
And then as we were leaving, he said, look, there's Taylor's two brothers and Kelsey.
Now, did you know Taylor?
Yes.
How do you know Taylor?
I dated her.
When did you date her?
A month before Kelsey did.
Okay, so you dated her for just 1 month.
Yeah.
Now, Kelsey didn't go to your school.
Mm-mm.
What about the two brothers? Did they go to the school?
Off and on, they'd skip school and stuff.
But they were enrolled in your school?
Yes.
Prior to March 15th, had you had any problems with him?
Not really. I would text Taylor back and forth. We had a few classes together, just as friends. And then one day I got a text from her, but it was from Kelsey saying, leave my girlfriend alone and stuff like that. I said, we're just friends.
So you got a text from him?
Yes, but off Taylor's phone.
When did you send that text?
March.
Tell me the circumstances surrounding you sending that text.
My girlfriend Taylor, she kept saying that he was harassing.
Don't tell me what she said to you. That's hearsay. You tell me what you did.
I was just trying to protect her and get him.
What did you do?
I texted him saying to
You
stop.
texted him and said?
Stop texting my girlfriend because she doesn't want to talk to you.
Okay. And did you do that on your phone or Taylor's phone?
Taylor's.
Why didn't you use your phone?
I didn't have his number and she had it, and it was from a text that he sent her, and she told me to tell him to stop talking to her.
So now I'm going to go to you, Kelsey. Now we're in March 15th. You're at the school where you don't go to school, where you had no business being during school hours. Right.
I was walking there with friends to meet up with friends when they got out of school, because I have friends that go to that school.
What were you doing there during school? He's leaving school early.
I was waiting for friends to get out of school.
What time did you get out of school?
I got out of school early that day.
Tell me what school you got out of and why did you get out of school early? And your mother's looking at me. Your mother's looking at me. She's going to enjoy this, Kelsey.
I went to East Stanislaus High School and I got out at 12 every day.
Why?
Because it was a continuation high school.
What does that mean?
I was falling behind on credits, and so I went there to catch up on credits.
So you got out of school at 12 o'clock. Yes. And
then I went to Modesto and met up with some friends.
Which friends?
My girlfriend's brother.
So you met up with your girlfriend's brother at his school?
No, the one I met up with, David, he didn't go to that school.
Well, then how did you get to his school?
Around the corner, we just walked.
How did you get to his school is my question.
We walked.
You walked?
Yes.
For what purpose?
To meet friends when they got out of school.
Which friends?
His brother, Caleb, and then our friend Brandon and our friend Alex.
But he had left school early that day.
I didn't know he was leaving. I was waiting there.
And so tell me what happened. You saw him. There's no question that you saw him.
Yes.
Go ahead.
And while we were walking up to the school...
Look at me. Don't look over there.
I'm sorry. I'm looking
right
at
here.
You. While we were walking up to the school, his friend came up to me and started pushing me, so I started pushing him back.
His friend?
Yes.
Well, his friend just walked up to you and started to push you.
Well, his friend knew that we had a little problem, but I thought...
Well, that wasn't a problem. What you told me about wasn't a problem. What you told me was you merely sent him a text and said, stop texting my girlfriend. She doesn't want to talk to you.
Yeah, he didn't listen. He kept texting her and then started texting me saying he was going to fight me.
Can I see those?
I don't have. I got a new phone since then.
What did you do with your old phone?
It broke.
Mm-hmm. So he is texting you that he wants to fight you.
Yes.
Now you go to school and you are with two boys. Keep going.
And then started pushing back and forth, me and his friend. And then my friend came and grabbed me and then got in the truck and left. And then school got out and we left with our friends.
Who got in their truck and left?
Nick and his friend.
Now tell me what happened.
As I was walking out, my friend Nick said there's Kelsey and Taylor's two brothers. And then I look up, Kelsey's running towards me, and Nick gets in front of me and starts holding Kelsey back and telling him...
No, I'm losing you. You're walking with your friend. Your friend says there's Kelsey and whatever friends he had with him. Now start from there slowly, like you're a freshman in college, like your mother isn't wasting her money.
I was walking to my truck with my friend Nick, and then as we were walking, Kelsey started running up to us. And then Nick gets in front of me and starts holding Kelsey back when he gets to us. And as Nick was pushing him back, I was trying to get in my truck. And then Nick kept saying, don't do this to Kelsey. And Kelsey said, no, I'm going to fight him. I'm going to punch him and stuff like that. And I said, dude, I'm not even want to fight. I don't even fight no one at all. And then I said, I have family problems. He said, I don't care about your family problems. And then I said, dude, my grandmother just died. I want to go home. He said, no, I don't care. Me and you are going to fight right now, right here. And I said, no.
Did you get into your truck?
Yes.
What happened when you got into your truck?
As I got into my truck, I locked the door, and then before I could put the key in the ignition, I start hearing pounding, and he starts punching my truck.
He started to punch your truck?
Yes.
Can I see pictures of the truck, please? Did you make a police report?
Yes, I did.
I'd like to see it. Did you get a copy of the police report?
I did.
Did the police talk to your son?
They did, yes.
And what happened?
My son didn't do it.
Yes, he did. Absolutely.
No, he didn't.
Absolutely no question.
No.
Absolutely no question.
Are there pictures of my son actually hitting the truck?
Who cares?
I do.
I don't care. Listen, you know, you already have somebody who's been a troublemaker. Doesn't go to a regular school.
He's been in trouble one time.
Doesn't go to a regular school. Has to sort of do a catch-up. Repeating another grade. I want to tell you something. You keep making excuses for him.
No, I don't agree with that.
I don't. Well, that's your problem. That's your problem. You don't agree with that.
And
he had no business. He had no business being at that school.
He wasn't
was
there.
angry.
He was not there to meet him.
No. He was angry.
He was not. This whole situation, because it had been 2 or 3 weeks since they had talked.
Oh no.
Oh yes.
Oh no.
Yes.
He's just told me no. Then he's a liar.
No.
No. Listen to me. Then he's a liar. Because when this happened on the 15th of March, he says that he texted him. He said, don't contact my girlfriend anymore.
Not that
and
day.
He kept, not that day. I didn't say that day. Your son just told me that he didn't listen. These were your son's words. He didn't listen, and he kept texting me and texted my girlfriend and texted me and said, I want to fight you. So it wasn't 2-3 weeks before.
He let it go. Kelsey let it go.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today, 17-year-old Nicholas Grossi says 16-year-old Kelsey Snyder punched his vehicle during an argument. Kelsey claims Nicholas had been texting his girlfriend.
Can I see a bill for the car, please?
That,
lost,
by the way, has...
Lost. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,700. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
If my son wanted to hurt
I drove away and
this other person, this kid,
I got out, looked at the truck.
he could have. Look at him. He's not small.
And there was 2 big...
Nobody could have held him back at that point.
fist punches.
I was there, but I never touched his truck.
In the truck. I didn't know what to do.
Probably picked me out. Wrong place, wrong time.
So I just went home and told my mom.
She was texting him, my son, a lot.
Well, my son gave me the story that...
And when I saw his phone ringing off the hook,
this young man was texting his girlfriend.
And I was asking why she kept calling him.
He tried to protect his girlfriend, and...
They know that he did it.
A scuffle happened.
Exactly, it's high school. Leave the little girls alone.
You may be seated. Gentlemen, have a seat.
Ms. Shepard, this is your son and it is your money.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Boddicker, how old are you?
I'm 21.
Been in some trouble?
I got a DUI.
How many?
Just one.
Any other trouble?
No, not in a few years.
What does that mean?
I've had drinking in public and a few other odds and ends, weed tickets and a few odds and ends, but nothing really anything serious.
You're 21 years old, sir. How many times have you been taken into custody by the police? I want you to stop and think about it.
3 times.
Other than those 3 times, how many citations have you received for one offense or another?
1.
For what?
Speeding.
Now, where were you living?
I've lived at my dad's house since I was 14.
And your dad's house is where?
Cincinnati, Ohio.
And your mom lives in?
Las Vegas.
When did you leave your dad's house to go to your mother's house?
About the 4th or 5th month of this year, and I stayed out there for about 3 months.
What month did you go there?
I'm not sure off the top of my head.
What month?
April.
And at the time, you had some outstanding legal issues in the state of Ohio.
It was actually in Kentucky.
In Kentucky? Oh. What kind of legal trouble did you have in Kentucky?
I got pulled over for DUI. It was around like 8 o'clock in the morning, and I was just trying to make it to work from the night before, and I got pulled over for speeding because I was going to be like about a half an hour late for work if I didn't.
So you were not only speeding, but you were also drunk?
Yes.
Great. Did you get a fine?
I got arrested. I had to go to some DUI classes, and I was having a hard time getting to them because my dad always worked out of town and all that, and I didn't have my license. They took that away from me. So my mom offered to have me come out and help me out with my DUI classes, so I'd actually get to them and not have to worry about finding a way every week to go check in.
What kind of work were you doing when you were living in Ohio?
I was a delivery driver for Jimmy John's, and then I got fired for a DUI because I couldn't drive anymore.
Do you believe, sir, that the classes that you had to attend were part of your punishment?
Yes.
And you had to pay for those classes?
Of course.
And your mom paid for those classes?
She offered to pay for those classes.
Your mom paid for those classes?
Yes.
Now, let's say instead of having to take drunk driving classes, because that seems to be a problem of yours, the judge said, you're going to do 60 days in jail. And your mom said to somebody, I'll give you $2,000 if you go and service jail time for him. Do you think we can do that in this country?
No.
Well, your driving classes are your punishment. Nobody else can take care of your punishment for you except you. And that's part of your punishment. Because, would have been bad enough for both your father and your mother if you were driving and speeding drunk because you were out all night and you were on your way to driving because you were a delivery person drunk. Be bad enough if you crashed your car.
The night before, I stopped drinking at midnight, and I didn't start driving until 9 o'clock in the morning.
But, sir, did you fight the DUI, or did you plead guilty to the DUI?
It was my first time in jail, and I was in the middle of nowhere. And
Just let me know, did you plead guilty, or did you fight?
Yes, I plead guilty.
Right, then I don't want to hear about it. So it would have been bad enough for your mother and your father if they got a call that your car was speeding and you hit a tree and your brains got splattered all over the tree and you were gone. That would have been terrible for them. Worse, however, would have been if you hit a man who was driving his 3 children to school at 8 o'clock in the morning, and you were fine, and they were all gone. That's what's wrong with drunks who drive. If they kill themselves, that's their problem. But they usually take other people with them. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Your punishment, your problem, nobody pays for them but you. It's part of what makes it hurt. How much were the classes?
$700.
I'd like to see.
This is the credit card I put it on, too.
Thank you. Did you pay your mother back any part of the $700?
About $200. She took it out of my first paycheck when I was working down there. She took about $250.
That's $225.
Okay. So that's $475 left on that bill. What else do you think he owes you for?
I have a list, Your Honor, of all the things I paid for him.
I don't care what you paid for him. You're his mother. You're supposed to pay for things for him.
Well, these were related to his DUI and plus a car note that he was almost getting repossessed.
I didn't agree to that, though.
Just a second.
Yeah, he did.
Just a second. What else did you pay for the DUI?
I paid his $40 fee with the DMV in Kentucky in order for him to get his license back. I paid for car insurance for him because he had to have car insurance on his car.
I don't care about that.
I also paid for his court fees of $836.
Oh, that I care about.
Yeah, but the insurance...
$510.
He agreed.
And what are the court fees?
$836.
That he owes you, that's part of the hurt.
He agreed to pay me back all this. He swore to me he was going to pay me back.
Mm-hmm.
Even when he left Nevada, he hugged me and said, Mom, I promise I won't screw you over.
Well, right now he owes you $1,346. Now, you want to tell me about this car note in 30 seconds or less, please?
I have a letter showing that was left on my door that he was about to lose his car.
So? Let him lose it.
I should have.
Well, so what does that have to do with the courts if you decided to pay off the car?
Well, he agreed to pay me back. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done it.
Do you have that in writing?
No. She doesn't need it in writing, and don't speak to your mother.
He promised me. He said
well, I
he
want
would
you to tell me how you found that on your door.
Yeah, and then I showed it to him, and he had been ignoring their phone calls, and I know he has a harder time.
Don't tell me what you know.
Okay. He promised that if I did negotiate the price of his car, get it settled and paid off, he would pay me back. He promised, he swore to me he would. My son even witnessed him saying he would pay me back everything that I put out.
He wasn't even out there.
Yes, he was.
Where's the car?
It's at my house in Cincinnati.
Well.
And he wrecked it.
Just a second. Were you paying on it?
I
don't. Were you paying on the car? That's either a yes or a no.
I was late on 2 payments, or
Fine.
2 months of payments.
2 months of payments, and that's why they were going to repossess it. But it was your car, and you were paying for it.
Yes.
When you left your mother's house, now you had your car, right?
Yes.
Well, what did you think was going to happen with the payments?
It was all settled. It was all settled. She paid it off without even talking to me about doing it first. She called them up, had me talk to J.D. Byrater to give him permission when I was half asleep. She did it at like 8 o'clock in the morning.
Something's wrong with you. You know what's wrong with you? You've probably been drinking alcohol too long, and your brain's gotten into kind of this soupiness. I want you to think of it this way, sir. You purchased a car. You were making payments.
Yes.
You still have the car. You have to make payments. And now your payments are even less because your mother negotiated a smaller amount of money that you're owed on the car, right?
Yes.
Yes. So saving you about $3,000 according to her papers, right?
Yes.
Well, that would be a big hug and a kiss and say, thank you for negotiating for me and thank you for laying out that money for me. And I will, like I've always been doing, except for the 2 months, pay you instead of paying them.
I've been trying to, but I haven't been working for the last 2 months. I just got a job back at Nick and Tom's in Cincinnati.
Nick and Tom's doing what?
I'm a dishwasher again.
Great. Not driving.
Not driving. I'm just...
Great. Even better.
And I just got back on my feet. I got my own house where I'm paying my rent every month, and I'm just trying to get all my bills settled.
Fine. So, what's your first name?
Richard.
Richard, if you said to me, Judge, I realize I owe my mother the money, and if you give her a judgment, I will pay her back little by little, but right now I'm just getting back on my feet, you and I are golden together. But if what you try to do is make excuses, do you have it in writing that I said I'd pay you back? That's what you said to your mother. Do you have it in writing? I didn't want it. I was going to let them repossess the car. That's what you said in your answer. You had all kinds of excuses. But, Richard, if you said to me right from the get-go, I know I owe her this money, and now I'm getting back on my feet, and I'm going to pay her, you and I wouldn't have had any difficulty. Do you understand?
Yes.
That means stop making excuses. How much did you pay for him for the car?
$6,000. I got the letter from the
Where'd you
company.
take the money from?
I used my credit card. I got the credit card attached to it.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I just hope I can mend my relationship with my son because it means a lot to me.
I love my mom, but I don't know.
Because he was out of my life for so many years living with his dad.
I love her and everything, but I still have my issues with her abandoning me.
I felt guilty for not being there for him, and I wanted to be there for him.
When I was younger and all that, so it's going to be a hard time, but we can rebuild.
I'm not going to give him any more.
Don't ask family for help. It just bites you.
And now, the next case.
All parties in the matter of McIntosh versus Straub. Step forward.
Latoya McIntosh is suing her nephew's girlfriend, Daniqua Straub, for damaging the garage in her townhome complex.
Miss Straub, who are these people?
This here to my left is Lamar Fields. He is the nephew of Latoya McIntosh.
And?
And Melissa, she is the property manager for Horizon Heights Townhomes, which is the complex that Latoya lives in.
Okay. Well, I'm actually interested in having you up here. No. You stay. Both of you. Miss McIntosh, this young lady was a guest in your home. There was a graduation party she attended.
Yes.
According to you, when she left your house, she got into her car, backed her car into the garage of the complex where you live, causing substantial damage to the garage structure. Yes. That's what happened.
Yes.
Move. You were just negligent.
No, I was not.
Well, what happened?
My rearview mirrors.
If the rearview mirrors were misplaced, whose fault is that?
It was my fault because it was
That's right. That's your fault. So, whose fault was the accident?
The accident was my fault because I was
correct. The accident that caused the damage to the structure was your fault.
Yes, it was.
And you were in your car.
Yes, I was.
And you had allowed your insurance to lapse.
Yes, I did.
Why are you here?
As per a signed lease that Latoya signed, it is a HUD model lease. The lease states that if the tenant or their guest damages the property due to neglect or misuse, the tenant is responsible to pay for damages within 30 days of receipt of an invoice.
Correct. Fine. Agreed. Perfect. And she says, I'm taking one step. I'm going to be a two-process thinker. I don't actually have the money to pay you, but she has to pay you because she caused the damage. And she'll pay me and I'll pay you.
And that's fine.
And you don't care who pays you.
Right. It's a 25-unit complex, $4,500.
You don't care who pays you.
Right.
But the courts look at it, and courts say, we want the person who's responsible, who's neglectful, who let their insurance lapse. That person is the one who really should be hurt in the pocketbook. You would agree to that, right?
Yes, I would.
Now, the fact that you could have proceeded against her, you chose not to. You said, I want to proceed against my tenant. She says, I'm going to sue her and get that money to pay you. Right?
Yes.
Does this all sound wonderful?
This makes sense to me.
You want to tell me, Ms. Straub, what doesn't make sense to you in what I just said?
Your Honor, it all makes sense to me.
Great. Then we're all in agreement. You have anything to add other than to say, I think you're 100% right?
Well, I was.
Now, well is not an answer.
When I was there, my aunt also said that we didn't, that she would pay for everything. We had nothing to worry about.
I'll be quiet. Why did you hit the garage?
I was backing out of the garage and I ran into it. I didn't see the garage. It was a complete accident. But on the day of the accident, LaToya told me out her own mouth that she knew she was going to be responsible. And that she
of course she's responsible. What are you, ridiculous? Is that your defense? I mean, I read your defense that she says, you know, I'm going to be responsible because she knows in her lease she's responsible.
Your Honor, LaToya also told me that she was going to pay for the garage. She said that she has a good relationship with the complex manager, which I assume was Melissa or me, that all she had to do was, quote-unquote, pay $10 a month or whatever she could afford, and that it was going to be covered. She said it was a mistake. Mistakes happen. Don't worry about it. That's what she told me.
Oh, well, she's very, very sweet. Why should she pay $10 a week or $10 a month? Why don't you pay $10 a week or $10 a month? It's your accident. How much does it cost to fix the garage?
Well, unfortunately, Your Honor, it was rather expensive. We had to have an emergency board-up contractor come out in the middle of the night because the city had deemed the structure unsafe, which I have photos here. If you want to look at, you can clearly see. So that was $738.48, and to actually make the repairs, that was $3,725 for a total of $4,463.48 due to the property.
You still living there, Miss McIntosh?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Who was in the car with you?
Me, her nephew, Lamar, his mother, and the plaintiff's witness.
When did your insurance?
My insurance expired a week before the accident happened.
Well, what do you mean you found out? It expired because you didn't pay the...
My mother paid for a 6-month policy. But when it expired, I wasn't aware of it because she paid for it 6 months in advance. So I forgot the date that was on the card that showed when my
Whose fault is that?
It's my fault.
You got a lot of faults. $4,463.48. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Thank you. Step out.
I love my nephew, and that's his girlfriend.
I hope that, you know, we continue to be happy with each other, love each other.
Just accept my responsibility.
I love you, baby. No matter what. And it's okay, but you got to take care of your business.
Florida County, the matter of Castillo versus Salvador.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
Ms. Castillo, the defendant is your former boyfriend. You have a child together. You live together for a period of time. You think he owes you a whole bunch of money. Mr. Salvador says he doesn't owe you any money, and he's counterclaiming because he says you're living in a house. Each one of you put down money for a down payment on the house. You kicked him out of the house. The house was in your name. He wants his down payment back, right?
Correct.
Okay. How old is the child you have together?
She'll be 2 in December.
You have other children?
No, not together.
No, but you have other children.
No.
You have other children?
Yes, I do.
You have a boy?
Yeah, my son.
And you have custody of him?
I had custody of him.
Until when?
Till her and I split up.
And then where did he go?
He went back to his mother.
How long had you had custody of him?
Since January till September of 2012.
All right, Ms. Castillo, let's talk about first the house that you were living in with Mr. Salvador. When was it purchased?
It was purchased in September of 2010.
How much of a down payment?
It was 3.5%, which was equivalent to about $6,300.
Who put down the money?
I did. Miss Lloyd at the time.
When did you become employed, Mr. Salvador?
In August of 2010.
Okay.
I was doing work for my bar at the time. I had a bar, but I wasn't getting paid for it. I was doing work for the club and paying myself for it. So
it was at your club?
My partners and I have it, but yes, it's in San Mateo. So we worked together. I did some work to the club to do some construction in there, paint some of the dance floors and stuff, and they paid me for it. So.
Did you put down any money?
Yes, I did.
On the house? How much did you put down?
I'd say about almost $5,000. The bank and the mortgage company, because of the type of loan that it was, stated that we could not show that I was putting money down on the house because it's an FHA loan and there can be no gifts outside from a couple, so everything had to be done kind of on low. I have check statements from when I did get the job. My boss that I got the job from actually gave me an advance to help us pay for it. I have copies of stuff that we had sold on the internet that was personal property to me that went towards the house and some other stuff.
I actually do believe you put some money towards the house. Okay, now the house had to be furnished. Who paid for that?
We use both of our personal property to furnish that. And actually, can I just comment on the statement that he just made regarding
putting any money down
Yes.
on the house?
Yes.
You can comment on it.
He was doing side jobs. Like I said, he was unemployed. And he had a house that he was renting in another city. So he had to pay for that until May of 2010 when they decided to sell that house. Okay. And he was also paying $600 a month for child support at the time. And
well, he was getting that money from somewhere, Miss Castillo. Unless you tell me that he wasn't paying the child support.
No, he was. And then until his unemployment got cut in half, then I was paying the child support for him.
Keep going. What do you think he owes you for?
I'm asking for half of credit cards. There's two of them because when we were in a relationship together, the debt was accumulated throughout the duration of our relationship. And
so was property.
Well,
so is the property, Miss Castillo.
When we moved into the house, I was working. He was very adamant about me being a stay-at-home mother. And I was very uneasy about it because I've always been very independent and not had to rely on anybody, had my own money, had my own income. And he really wanted me to stay home. So 5 months after our daughter was born, I agreed to stay home. And
Miss Castillo, I'm not interested. Not interested.
He agreed to be the sole provider financially for our house.
Not interested. Then get married.
That wasn't what our situation was.
Well, I'm going to tell you, then that's not what your situation is here. Are the credit cards in your name?
They are in my name.
They're your credit cards. Pay them. Is the furniture that he left in the house, some of it belong to him?
He has all of his personal property.
No, he has all the personal property that you say is his personal property. I cannot imagine a couple living in a house together and not buying a towel, a dish, a pot, a pan, a blender, a TV, a radio, an iron, an ironing board.
No, we did split everything. He had his property and I had my property. We did split it.
I don't believe it.
He had...
Listen to me. I read your complaint. Don't believe it. They're your bills, they're your credit cards. Just like, unfortunately, for Mr. Salvador, he's not going to be able to prove to me that he put down all that money that he says he put down as the down payment on a house because he was working in the club, he was working at the bar, he was paying himself in cash, he couldn't show it, he had other things going on. You know it and I know it, but he can't prove it. You may show that you sold some things on eBay, that your boss gave you in advance on your salary, but that's not going to be able to prove that you put that money down on the house. So you're not going to be able to prove that. So it's money that you lost. Your credit cards, pay them. What's next?
So that's all that we're saying and done.
That's what I'm telling you. When you get married, you accumulate marital debt. When you get divorced, call it marital debt, and they say, well, you have, as a married couple, $10,000 worth of credit cards. I'm going to split that in half. I'm also going to look at the house. The house may be in your name, but the house belongs to both of you because this is a community property state. So he gets half the house, and you get half the house. That's what happens when you're married.
I understand that,
when
Your
you
Honor.
choose not to get married, and I'm not interested in, I was always independent. He insisted that I stay home. I quit my job, so he was the one who was working. Because you also have a claim here that he drained a joint bank account.
He did.
You weren't working. He's allowed to do that. I mean, if you went to the bank first, you would have done it.
No, I wouldn't have.
I don't know. I know that you're not giving him any money back on the house.
I have a history of him.
Listen, I know that you're not giving him any money back on the house.
There is no money to be made on the house.
Your Honor, she just sold the house.
No, I did not.
At this
No, I
household
did not.
a few months ago.
The buyer fell through. We are in escrow right now.
Listen to me. You get nothing. Go to family court. Get a support order for your child. That's the only thing that you have that ties you to him. A support order for your child. Not for you, not for your credit cards. There are no courts for almost marrieds.
I understand that, Your Honor. I understand that. I'm just trying to be reasonable and ask for half of it because it was accumulated.
You're going to give him
this. He
just a
set
second.
this up
Are
this
you
way.
going to give him half the house?
There's nothing. There's nothing to be made.
Just a second.
He was court ordered to pay the mortgage, and he hasn't. And there's over $6,000. So I'm at the point where I'm almost going to lose the house.
Listen to me. I don't know why anyone would court order him to pay the mortgage on the house. That's outrageous. It's not his house, and you're not his wife.
I agree.
Why would anybody court order him to pay the mortgage? In what jurisdiction was that?
Stanislaus County.
Where is
on
that?
a restraining
in
order.
Modesto, California.
It was
In
ordered,
California.
Yes.
They are absolutely loony here.
It was ordered on a restraining order. He has a history of control and domestic violence.
Listen to me. I don't care. That's your problem. Your problem is you have a support order against him. That's what he does. He pays child support. He
No,
doesn't pay
He's
any
trying to
of
lie
your
about-
other...
He doesn't pay child support.
That's not my problem.
You don't
Go back
send
to
me to your
family
daughter.
court. If he's not paying the support, ought to go back to family court. If he drained the bank account, it was his money that was put in the bank account. And a joint account is very
So
simple.
then
Either
is-
person can go into a bank, and if it's in a joint account, pull out the money.
But with it being the joint account, it's continually overdrawn, and we can't close it until that amount is paid off. So I'm asking that since he was the one who drained it and it has a negative balance of almost $1,000, that he repays that so it can be closed.
I drained it because she served me a 30-day notice and asked me to leave.
I gave him a
waited
restraining order.
I know.
Because of domestic violence.
Doesn't.
I've already resolved most of your issues. Pay your own credit cards. He's not getting any money back from the house, so his counterclaim is resolved. He's allowed to drain the joint bank account. What else?
We have our daughter's tuition for her preschool.
Family court. Family court will set an order of support, and if the family court believes that he's responsible for paying part of the tuition for your daughter's private school, then the court will make that as an order. And in California, they may just do that. If they made a man pay for a mortgage on a house that he has no interest in a non-marital situation, they may just order him to do that. I will not.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today, Jessica Castillo says the father of her child, Harvey Salvador Jr., owes for credit card charges, his daughter's tuition, and stolen money. Harvey is countersuing for the return of a down payment on a house.
Listen, kids, you want to get married? Get married. There are courts for people who get married. There are not courts for people like you who want people like me, who are very busy people. Not really me, because this is a television courtroom. But in the real world, there are courts that are very busy, and we don't want to have to clean up your mess. And that's what you do. You create a mess. You buy a house together, but really not. You open up a joint bank account together, but really not. You have credit cards together just in my name, but he's supposed to pay for them because I wasn't supposed to be working, because he's controlling. And then you come to me and you say, get a big broom and clean up this mess. I choose not to do that. Courts, if they're smart, out there, if they're smart, would throw you people out, and eventually you'd all get the message. You want to live together? Joint? Nothing. Separate? Everything. Write it out in a contract. You choose not to get married? That's your prerogative.
We had a verbal contract.
Goodbye.
What is your excuse? You may step out.
The last month that I lived with him, he was just on a rampage.
We had a bad relationship, you know, a couple times nights of drinking and people getting stupid.
His anger was up and down, out of control, and I just said, you know, I can't do this anymore.
We're tied together because my daughter, I want to see her.
He continues to go down the path that he has and doesn't want any kind of...
So I'm done with it. I just want to see my daughter and Miss Kalia, and that's it.
...visitation with her. Then I just want him to go and live his life and just kind of leave us alone.
Ms. Amora, you claim that the defendant, who's your cousin, keyed your car and damaged it. The defendant denies she keyed your car, and she's got a counterclaim for pulling out her hair. I have to tell you, Ms. Bertrand, I was pretty distressed when I read the complaint and even your answer. You clearly had a problem with your husband, and according to the plaintiff, you called her and asked if you could come over to her house with your 2 children. Is that right?
Yes.
And the problem with your husband had to do with another man.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you came over to your cousin's house with your 2 children and the other man.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
What time did you get to your cousin's house?
Around 10:30ish.
At night?
Yes.
Who was at her house?
Maddie, Jackie, her daughter.
Who are those people?
Those are my cousins. And then you came up, and then...
Was there a party going on, or was it
we were just over there drinking.
Who was drinking?
All of us.
Were you and your boyfriend drinking before you came to your cousin's house?
No.
Okay. Now, when you had a fight with your husband and called and said, I want to come over, did you pick up your boyfriend on the way over?
No, he was there already, at my house already.
And where was your husband?
He was at his mother's house.
Were you separated from your husband?
Yes.
For how long?
2 months.
Okay. So you get over to your cousin's house and everybody's drinking, including you and the boyfriend.
Yes.
How are you supposed to get home?
We plan to stay a night there.
Okay. Now you want to tell me what happened?
Yes. My friend had grabbed the wrong beer, which is her nephew, a minor, and everybody got in my friend's face over a beer. And so my friend tried to leave, and I asked him not to leave because he's been drinking. And he tries to leave, and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to call my mom to come pick us up. I went into her room to get my kids, and I go to her room to try to get my kids. She's like, no, you're not taking your kids. You're drunk. I'm like, I'm taking my kids with me. They're my kids. I'm taking them with me. She's like, no.
That's my problem. So she said to you, you're not taking the children. You're drunk.
Yeah.
And you said to her, they're my children. I'm going to take them.
Yes.
And then what happened?
And then before I wake my kids up, I call my mom.
What time did you call your mother?
It was probably around 2.
2 in the morning?
Yes.
What is wrong with you?
I wanted to get out of her house. She was acting
What
crazy.
is wrong with you? You want to get out of the house? Go. Your children were sleeping. Let your children sleep. That was your plan.
She was acting crazy. She was yelling at everybody.
So where did you go after you woke your children up?
We went outside to Elijah, my friend's car.
Your boyfriend's car?
Yes.
You went outside to your boyfriend's car, who was also drunk?
Yes.
Go ahead.
And I was trying to get the kids inside.
Inside?
The car.
Why?
Just to wait in the car until my mom came and got us.
Why couldn't your children wait in the house, in the bedroom?
Marcella was running around yelling at everybody.
What was she yelling?
Over a beer.
So far, you're not acting responsibly with your two children.
I understand that, ma'am.
Good. I'm glad you do.
I have not drank since that night. I quit smoking, I quit drinking since that night because of my kids.
Then I give you a gold star. But let's get back to that night. So now you're trying to put your kids in your boyfriend's car, who was also drunk, and?
Then I was going through a divorce, and me and my husband had agreement with my son on where my son's going to stay at. She brought up my son. That's why you don't have custody of your son now, because you're a bad mother. I said, how are you going to bring up my son when you have a 19-year-old daughter you gave away when she was a baby? And Jackie and Marty, they both go, oh, no. They brought up Jasmine, oh, no. And they walked up to me and grabbed me by my hair in front of my kids. And Jackie let go first, and then Marty still didn't want to let go. She had my hair for like a good 4 minutes, and then Jackie told her 4 times, Mom, just let go already. Mom, let go, let go. She did not want to let go. She finally let go when my daughter started screaming, and she pulled a chunk of my hair out when she let go.
What happened to her car?
There was people out that night. There was people outside that lived in the apartment complex, outside drinking at their car, listening to music.
So what you're telling me is you didn't touch her car?
No, I did not.
Great. Now, Miss Amora, I got the picture. Now, your car got keyed. I want to see the pictures of your car.
I have those here in the police report.
I'd like to take a look at them.
Here you go, sir.
You still with the boyfriend, by the way?
No.
He didn't want to give up drinking. Okay, so your car was very badly keyed. Now you're going to tell me what proof you have that she did it.
That night, ma'am, there was a confrontation. She took the kids. That is when everything got heated. I was arguing with her, telling her not to take her children because she had been for her mother. She wanted to go with the boyfriend.
Right.
So
I gathered that.
Yeah, she wanted to go with the boyfriend, and the first thing she did was she went and grabbed the beer that she had brought from her house when they were drinking before they came to my house. So they had already been drinking before they got to my house. That is when I said, oh, you would grab the beer first before you think of your kids. So then she put the beer in his car, went to my bedroom, woke these kids up out of their sleep. I got in between and said, leave the kids here. You can pick them up tomorrow. She yanked her daughter and said, get your effing A out of the bed. We're going right now.
How old?
That made me mad. I believe one is like 7 and the other one is like 3 or 4. 2 girls. Mind you, she does not have her son with her either. Her husband has her son. So it was a very heated argument. So I got very angry. I followed her out the door. We argued. So then she had mentioned my daughter that I had when I was 16 years old. So I went and I got in, not Jacqueline, I got in her face and we were arguing. She went to slap me or whatever she did, and that's how I got the mark on my neck. And we went at each other's hair. We were pulling hair for I don't know how long when this one said, my daughter Jacqueline ran up, and my 17-year-old ran up and tried to pull us apart. Once the fight was over, they pulled us apart. She got on her phone acting crazy, calling the cops and saying, there's a bunch of minors here, and my cousins just jumped me. So I went to my truck, got my ID out, and I told everyone else, have your IDs ready because the cops are going to come. Let's all go inside. Even the boyfriend left her outside. We all went inside and left her.
Where were the children?
The children were in his car with her. He said he was not going to drive with the kids in the car. So he asked if he could stay and sober up before he left. I said, that's fine. The police are on their way. So we waited inside. Pauline is screaming and laughing like a psycho outside. So I went to my door, and I'm like, what is she doing? I look outside, and I see her and the kids running in the parking lot. She is leaving behind my truck, but I did not assume that she would be doing anything to my vehicle. So I said, she's acting crazy, and I shut the door. A few minutes later, there was a knock at my door. I thought it was the police. Someone answered the door, and it was my Aunt Rose, her mother. My Aunt Rose came and said, where's the...
Don't tell me what Rose said.
She came for the girls' blankets. So we went in the room, she grabbed the girls' blankets. I told her Polly had a little too much to drink and she wants to drive with the kids. She proceeded to walk out the door. Jacqueline and her friends, I don't know if they were already out or walking out as all this is happening, but they're outside. Pauline is getting in the vehicle with my aunt and taking off when the girls notice my truck is all keyed. So Jacqueline screamed something out to Pauline as she was leaving. I don't know if you would like her to speak up.
Yeah, I would.
Jacqueline, please.
Well, I was outside with 3 friends, and before we had went inside, everybody, we were leaning on our truck, and there was no scratch marks whatsoever. Well, after that 10 minutes passed, while Pauline was outside alone, we then went back outside, and we noticed that our truck was all of a sudden keyed. And then she jumps into her mother's car, and I run towards the car, and I say, really? You're going to key our truck like that? That's how you feel? Like 5-10 minutes later, I get a text message from her saying, that's how I feel, payback's.
Do you have that?
On the phone. Yes, I do.
I'd like to take a look at it.
It has time and date on it. 8/11/12:56 a.m. She's the yellow text, I'm the purple.
So, what does that mean?
I was never outside by myself.
I'm asking you what it means when you say, yes, that's how I feel, payback's. What does that mean?
I didn't text her. She texted me first and said...
That's what you wrote to her.
No.
What does that mean?
I never sent her that text message.
Yes, you did.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Mauri Zamora says her cousin, Pauline Bertrand, keyed her truck after a drunken scuffle.
Go ahead.
Your Honor, I was outside by myself, like, no more than 30 seconds when my mom went and got the blankets for my girls. I wouldn't have had enough time to do all that. I saw the pictures on Facebook. They both battered me in front of my kids.
No, you battered each other. Police officers actually saw marks. The police officers actually saw marks on her.
She has a battery to an officer. You think she's not going to batter me?
I don't know that. I'm just reading the police report.
I got my police report, too.
I'm going to read it.
And I got a statement from my niece, too. She was bragging that they got me.
I don't. Listen to me. Do you know that I didn't let her tell me what other people told her, including your boyfriend? I don't read statements.
Yes, ma'am.
You behave badly, and there's a good reason for you to stop drinking.
I have. 3 months I've quit drinking.
Now, how old is your mother?
60.
What does she do for a living?
She makes refrigerators for RVs.
Where?
At Domedic.
What time does she go to work?
6 a.m.
And what time did she come to pick you up?
It was between 2 and 3 a.m.
And your mother doesn't have to be at work until 6?
She didn't have to work the next day.
Great.
It was a Friday night.
Great. So then you lied to the police when the police said, I asked her why she left the scene prior to my arrival, and she stated her mother needed to go to work.
She had a doctor's appointment that morning.
Listen to me. That's what you told the policeman. That's why I asked you these questions.
Yes.
Okay, do you have an estimate, please?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
And Bert, could you also get me her police report, the defendants? What kind of car do you have?
I have a 99 Ford Expedition.
Okay. Bert, just do me a favor, please look up the value of a 1999 Ford Expedition, would you please?
V6, V8?
V8, I believe.
It's a four-door wagon, XLT, 8-cylinder.
4650?
Now, am I correct, madam, that you didn't go to make this police report until November 7th?
Yes.
And that's despite the fact that the incident happened in August? So you went to make the police report before you were coming to court?
This is my cousin, my favorite cousin.
Listen to me. I don't care if it's your favorite cousin. I have one police report that was made the date of the incident by her. I have one police report that was made 3 months later, right before you came to court, by you, with a counterclaim. Am I correct with regard to that? Right. Your counterclaim's dismissed. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,000. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She called and said that her husband walked in to their house, busted her with another man, and asked if they can come over to my house.
Because my husband had came over, I had a friend over, and...
Now, later on, after this whole incident happened, she was telling...
I just didn't want no drama with my husband.
Her husband, that man was actually there waiting for me. And I had never met him before in my life.
I told my husband that he's just a friend. I've never had no kind of relationship with him or nothing.
Yeah, I'm her favorite cousin, and she used me like that.
You didn't have a seat, please.
Ms. Koza, you didn't do what you were supposed to do because you allowed a romantic relationship to interfere with your good judgment, and you allowed Mr. Burns to use your credit when you were dating to buy a car and, according to you, a television set. You stopped dating. Mr. Burns took the car. He continued to pay for a period of time on both the credit card for the television set and for the car, and then, according to you, he stopped. In what month and year did you stop making payments on the credit card and the car?
March 2012.
And why did you stop making payments?
I had to put a new transmission in the Subaru 3 months prior, and I used all my financial aid. I'm a full-time student. So I had to live off the money that I was making, so I didn't have the ability to pay the bill.
So how many months delinquent were you?
30 days. The best buy was 60.
So 1 month on the car and 2 months on the Best Buy card. You also didn't have the car properly registered.
Yes.
Is that right?
That's correct.
And how delinquent was it in being registered?
Almost 6 months. I was waiting to pay for the catalytic converter in order to get a smog because it's in California.
That's not Miss Koza's problem. That's your problem. The fact is you visited on her because the car is in your name?
It's in both of our names.
The credit is in your name?
It's 50-50.
Well, it's not 50-50. They're going to come after the one who's working. Are you working?
I am.
What do you do?
I'm a substitute teacher looking for a teaching job, and I nanny on the side.
And what do you do?
I'm a full-time student. Going to school to get my teacher
Well, then
credential.
they're going to come after you because you have a job.
And that's what they told me.
Yeah, of course. So, you got pulled over, your car wasn't registered, they impounded the car, Miss Koza got the car out of impound, paid the parking tickets. You also had parking tickets, right? That wasn't because you had a bad transmission. That's just because you parked where you felt like it.
Yes.
And you also didn't pay the parking tickets.
I was going to pay the parking tickets, but she'd picked up the car and paid them before I had knowledge of it.
When you get a parking ticket, you pay it. And if you didn't have enough money to
But if
fix
you don't have the
car,
money, you can't pay it.
That's not her fault. Don't take the car.
$3,400 for a transmission.
Listen to me. That's not Miss Koza's problem, Mr. Burns. I know that you want to say it's somebody else's fault. How old are you?
28.
28-year-old man should not be a full-time student if he has bills to pay. He should be a part-time student and a full-time worker bee. Or at least a part-time worker bee and a part-time student, or any configuration thereof. But a 28-year-old man who has bills to pay, who has indebted somebody else for him, doesn't sit back and read his books all day. He works and doesn't rely on the largesse of others, which probably in this case includes family, friends, and student aid, which is, of course, us. Now, Ms. Koza, you want what he owed you on the Best Buy card.
Correct.
How much did he owe for the TV on the Best Buy card?
For the Best Buy card, he owed $1,300, and I have proof that it was in collections for the last 4 months, which I was not aware of. And the bill was $1,300, and so they did a settlement for me because I just had a breakdown. I don't make a lot of money, and the settlement for $752 was paid. And so that
you got a bargain, Mr. Burns. $752.
But again, I didn't ask her to pay it.
I don't care whether you asked her or not. What would you like her to do? You'd like her credit score to be 0? You would like her credit score to be goose egg?
No,
I
told her when stuff was going on. I would have the money in 2 weeks.
Mr. Burns, you don't have money because you don't work. Get a job.
That's not always true.
No, get a job. Get a job. You can't say, honey, I don't have any money. If I had it, I would give it to you. Sounds like some relatives I know. What I'm telling you is people get money by working. By the time you're 28 years old, you should have figured that out. That's how Bird makes a living. That's how my cameraman makes a living. That's how the people that run the lights make a living. Everybody who wants to earn money works.
I worked for a long time before going back to school.
Well,
you know?
Just a minute. You worked for a long time? You're 28 years old. You tell me that you worked a long time when you're 70 years old.
And I went back to school, worked full-time, and went to school full-time until I was 26.
And then what happened?
I went to the University
You retired?
of California, Santa Cruz. No. I ended up in Santa Cruz.
$52. What did you get to get the car out of impound?
What I had to do to get the car out of impound.
Just tell me how much you paid to get the car out of impound, including the parking tickets.
A total of, to get it impounded, I had to do a number of steps, pay tickets,
just
registration.
a second. Give her this, please. All I want to know is
how
much she paid to get the car out of impound.
Your Honor.
I had this already.
She took my car that I'd been paying on for 4.5 years.
That's too bad.
No, but she took my car and left me carless.
Good. Get a job, go to school, take 6 credits, and get a job full-time, and then you'll have enough money for
It does not work like that. You don't get financial aid after 6 credits. You can't support yourself. You either got to go in all the way, or you can't go in.
Tell that to Abraham Lincoln.
$620.
I think times were different back then.
No, people were different back then, Mr. Burns. Times were the same. People had to get up, they had to eat, they had to have a roof over their heads, they had to pay for some sort of fuel to heat their house. The only difference is people got soft.
70 cents, so 2,000. 70 cents? Well, it was part of that, I'm sorry. So $2,229.70 is what I had to spend to get it out.
That's all I want to know.
Okay.
Your problem, however, with regard to part of your claim, Ms. Koza, is as follows. You want him to pay to have the car repaired so you can sell it.
May I interject for one moment?
Yes.
That was the total cost in order to get permission to then drive an hour and a half away to get it out. When I was once there, I had to pay an impound fee and police fee, which together, so this would be addition, is $519.
I don't understand. What's the $2,200 for?
That is for parking citations. There turned out to be 19 of them. And
19.
that was
19, how much was that?
For 19 citations, it was $1,620. And the reason why I did decide to pay for all this stuff is because for 2 weeks I tried to get hold of Matthew Burns and he would not return my phone
You don't
calls.
have to tell me why.
Okay.
Actually, he's very busy being a full-time student.
No,
Now,
but
a full-time student without a car.
when she picked up the car, she took the responsibilities of the car.
No, sir.
I've been taking care of that car for 4.5 years. I put $3,400 in it 3 months prior.
Sir, you didn't pay your parking tickets. You got parking tickets, $1,600 worth of parking tickets. You didn't pay them. You don't have to get a parking ticket. You just have to be irresponsible enough to park wherever you like and then take the tickets and throw them away. Now, if you didn't have any money, you would be more careful where you parked. You get one ticket and then you say, gee, this is a ticket. I'm going to pay this and I'm not going to get another one. But if you don't pay the tickets, then what difference does it make? What difference does it make? You can't register the car.
She picked up the car. She takes responsibility of the car.
Mr. Burns, she did not. That's what you're doing here, sir. She had to do what she had to do to A, protect her credit, and to B, since you were being totally irresponsible with her good name by not paying on her credit card, by not paying on the loan on the car, by getting $1,600 worth of tickets that you didn't pay, she had to do whatever she had to do to protect herself, which she did from your irresponsible behavior. Totally irresponsible.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today, Ann Cosa is suing ex-boyfriend Matthew Burns for credit card bills, parking tickets, impound fees, and car repair costs.
Now, if you think that she's responsible for this money, she's not. You are. The only problem that she has is she wants you to pay. She says that the car needs a whole bunch of repairs before she can sell it. And that part of your claim, and that's the only part of your claim, Ms. Cosa, that I'm going to dismiss without prejudice, because you can't do a presumptive strike. If you sell the car and there's a shortfall on what you get for the car and the loan, then you can sue him for the difference. If a bank repossesses the car and they have to paint it, put in a new whatever, they do whatever they have to do, they sell it, and if you still owe on the car, they come back to you.
Your Honor, I do have a recording of Matthew Burns saying that he will make payment on the repairs. Because
I don't care whether you have that recording or not. I'm just telling you what I'm doing. I'm not entertaining that.
And then,
judging for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,500. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
it caused me a lot of stress and a lot of money that I didn't really have.
I wasn't taking responsibility. I wasn't taking accountability for my actions.
Back then, he was an honest, nice man who was a stand-up man. And the last year, he's, no offense to him, but has gone down the drain and careless and selfish.
In some aspects of my life, yeah, but in others, I've grown.
I just hope I can get done with this and move on with my life.
Anthony Morris for property damage and loss of income.
Miss Francis?
Yes, ma'am.
Who is this?
It's my husband.
Well, this has to do with the ownership of a home. Do you both own the home, or just did you inherit the home?
It doesn't have to do with ownership of the home. It's a case about property damage.
I understand that.
Yes, ma'am.
But somebody owns the home. Who owns the home? Is the question. Not your husband.
Correct.
Have a seat. Let's not confuse it. Ms. Francis, you had a brother.
Yes, ma'am.
Whose name was?
Julius.
How old was he?
My brother was 38.
And your brother owned a home?
Yes.
How long did your brother own this home?
He just purchased a home in 2017.
Do you know how much he paid for it?
About $123,000.
Was there a mortgage on the house?
Yes, ma'am.
How much is left on the mortgage?
$110,000 now.
Do you know how much the house is worth?
Yes, ma'am.
How
It's
much?
worth $213,000 now.
So almost double.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, your brother passed away when?
June of 2020.
From what?
Pancreatic cancer.
So it was relatively fast.
Yes, it was. He was actually diagnosed in 2019. So in early 2019,
Okay. Now, Mr. Morris,
Yes, ma'am.
you had been a roommate of Julius.
That is correct.
For how long?
I moved into the house on October 19th, 2019.
And you paid rent.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, when Julius got sick, according to what I read, you never moved into the house with Julius. You just took him to where he needed to be. Is that correct? You lived with your husband.
Yes, ma'am.
You lived with your husband, and you came as needed to take your brother to medical appointments, etc. You lived in the house with him.
Correct.
Is that correct?
partially.
What's not partially?
At the end of my brother's illness, I moved in with him because
How much before?
I would say March of 2020.
So for a couple of months, towards the end, you moved in, but during the course of the year, you lived with your husband and you lived in the house with Julius. And when you were living in the house with Julius, did you give any assistance to him?
And ran errands for him.
Did you know him before you moved into the house?
I did not.
Okay. After Julius passed away, you inherited the house.
Yes, ma'am.
Did he have a will?
Yes, ma'am.
And the will specifically gave you the house?
Yes, ma'am.
And you and the defendant determined that you would remain a tenant in June of 2020. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes, ma'am.
There came a time when you moved out, Mr. Morris?
Yes, that's correct.
And what month and year did you move out?
June 1st, I believe, 2022. Correct.
And what was the reason that you moved out?
I moved out because the rent had went up for a second time.
What was it when you were living with Julius?
$650.
And then when Miss Francis inherited the house, did she modify the rent?
She did.
In what month?
I'm not specifically, I can't answer that question.
What did she raise the rent to?
Approximately $1,200.
Was that the first increase?
That was correct.
How long did that increase stay in place?
That had to be for a year. That was the term of that lease.
And what happened after the year?
She raised the rent again.
To what?
Well, that's when I didn't accept that lease.
What did she ask, though you gave notice you were leaving?
I did.
She's going to show me what she considers $5,000 worth of damage to the house. I want to see it.
Yes, ma'am.
Now I want you to show me what damage you are ascribing to him from the house.
Okay, I have the pictures here, Your Honor.
Okie
Danielle and Michael Francis claim their former tenant, Anthony Morris, damaged their property while renting from them.
When did you give notice you were leaving?
30 days before June 1st.
Okay. And when was the lease up?
June 1st, it would expire.
Now, after your brother passed away and you inherited the house, did you maintain the same rent that he was paying to your brother?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So when did you raise his rent and to what amount?
I raised the rent in November.
Okay.
Of 2021.
To what?
To $14.95.
That was the first time you raised his rent?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you knew what his rent was when he was living with your brother?
Correct.
And how much? A little over 200%.
Yes, ma'am, Your Honor. Can I explain the reason to that?
No, it's irrelevant what the reason was.
Okay.
He was paying rent of $625. You raised it to $1,500. Now, at the end of that term, were you going to raise his rent again?
Yes,
yes.
ma'am.
To what?
It was going to be an $80 increase to $1,575.
Now, during that 2-month period that you lived in the house, you had no issue with regard to the way Mr. Morris maintained the house while you were living there with your brother. And that fact is buttressed by the fact that you maintained him as a tenant, right?
Correct.
Okay, so you saw the way he maintained the house, and having seen that, you continued him as a tenant.
Correct.
And you raised his rent substantially, and he paid that rent.
Correct.
And he paid that rent sufficiently so that you were prepared to re-rent him the house, but you just wanted a little more money.
Correct.
Correct. Now he moves out on June 1st of this year.
Mm-hmm.
And now you say that he caused almost $5,000 worth of damage. And because he had damage, you lost income because you couldn't re-rent the house.
Yes, ma'am, I do now.
And how much rent is she paying?
She is paying $2,200 a month.
And when did her lease start?
Her lease started in September.
So your premises was not rented for 2 months.
Correct.
And when it was rented from the 2-year period of time between your brother's death and your re-renting the house, the rent went from $625 to $2,200.
Yes, ma'am.
Doesn't sound like you're losing any money.
Well, there's
just a second.
Okay.
Doesn't sound like you're losing any money. So I'm not interested in the loss of income that you had. You had no loss of income. Anybody who lives in a house can't rent from June 1st. House has to be painted, normal wear and tear. You may have to redo carpeting. That's the normal wear and tear. Had to be done because that's what you do when you want to get $2,200 rent from somebody for a house. You have to paint it up. You have to freshen it up. You have to do all of those things. So what I want to see from you are photographs of what other house, correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
That belonged to you.
Yes, ma'am.
And that you didn't clean out.
I did not.
Now, you left on June 1st. And I'm telling her that she's going to show me what she considers $5,000 worth of damage to the house. I want to see it.
Yes, ma'am.
You agree that you left some stuff in the house. She probably has a bill for cleaning out some of that stuff. That she's entitled to. Now I want you to show me what damage you are ascribing to him from the house.
Okay, I have the pictures here, Your Honor.
Okie dokie.
Also, can I present in evidence what the room that the defendant rented out, what it looked like prior to the damages?
No, I don't see any damages. I see mess.
There's pictures in there, Your Honor.
I'm looking.
The damages. The carpet was damaged very badly. He messed up my mattress in my second bedroom. The doors was damaged. He actually changed the lock on the second bedroom door and the master bedroom door without my
You see all
knowledge.
this stuff, sir? Shh,
Yes,
just a
ma'am.
sec. This is all your junk, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you should have a substantial bill for cleaning and getting rid of this.
Yes.
I'd like to see it. It's $760 to clean out the house.
Yes, ma'am.
Make it move in clean.
Yes, ma'am.
That's what you're entitled to, Miss Francis. $760. You can't leave a place like that.
Also, Your Honor, I had other damages as well. My microwave was broken.
I don't know who broke that. And you don't know.
I know it was working when he was there.
May have been working, may have been not working.
Everything was in top-notch condition, from appliances to flooring, when Mr. Morris was at the house. So he broke my microwave.
Fix it.
I have fixed it, and I'm asking for the cost of a replacement for a new one.
No, wait.
Why not?
Because I'm not convinced, madam, that somebody who, according to you, helped you with your brother, was there and supportive for the last year of his life. He certainly left a mess, which you're not supposed to do, sir.
I understand.
You're not supposed to leave a mess. And this is clearly a mess. And there's no question in my mind. Business. And she's not living there with her husband. This has now become a business investment. Yeah. Her investment increased in value. It was really Julius's investment, but it increased in real estate value. And instead of seeing $600 a month, which probably doesn't cover the taxes and mortgage, she now has a profit because she's now getting $2,200 a month from somebody, and that covers, of course, her mortgage and whatever taxes they are. You were annoyed? You're still not allowed to leave a place like this. $760, judgment for the plaintiff. We're done.
Court is adjourned.
Kind of upsetting because the defendant really trashed my brother's house, given that we considered him like family.
I was like family with him. I took care of the brother for a long period of time. I wouldn't have left the house like that.
And for him to turn around and do this and cause all those damages and then get off scot-free, it's heartbreaking.
Number one, there were no damages.
You know what? Nothing good ever comes to someone who does people like this.
Money does change people, and so you have to be careful.
Be careful who you rent to.
So I just did some research on the home while we were out there, and I found some interesting information just based on some of the plaintiff's claims. So I did find that the home for rent for the first time, July 22nd, for $2,300 listed for rent once she became the owner.
And he moved out in June, beginning of June.
So her claim for lost income doesn't really make sense because she had it listed on Zillow at least. I'm not sure it could have been listed before then. That's just when Zillow picked up on it. I'm not sure how their algorithms work, but she was unable to get the $2,300, presumably, because she reduced it to $2,200 in August of 2022. And then it was removed later in August at that $2,200 mark, presumably whoever, the new tenant that she now has.
So she had no real lost income.
Exactly. She had the month of maybe July, but if you have a tenant moving out June 1st, you give yourself 2 weeks notice as a landlord anyway to make the necessary painting, carpet
and sometimes it takes a little bit.
Exactly, and you don't find a tenant right away. So based on that, I wouldn't have given her any lost
income for the He left the house a mess.
He did. He left boxes. He acknowledged it.
He left the place a mess. He left food in the refrigerator, and there's no way in one day.
Sabrina Larry for car damage after Sabrina hit his vehicle and a house.
Mr. Shaheen, tell me where you live.
I live in Moorhead, Minnesota.
And on September 8th of this year, you parked your relatively new car that, according to you, you got a week before.
No, Your Honor.
I had just purchased a Sequoia a week before.
No, actually, it's not It's not the new car. I mean, it's a used car, but I purchased it maybe a year before that, not exactly a week.
Okay. So it's not a new car and you didn't purchase it. The defendant, Miss Larry, while under some sort of influence of some sort of substance, was driving her car, had an accident, hit your car, and caused it to move 25 feet, and it was damaged.
Yes.
And the damage to the car was your accident.
9 or 10 a.m.
On the 8th?
Yes.
Where were you coming from?
The grocery store.
Where were you going?
Home.
What kind of drugs had you taken?
I was taking Benadryl, prescription medication. That's all I had. That's what I took. And
Can I see the police report? You remember hitting his car?
No.
You remember the police coming to where your car stopped?
No, I don't remember the police coming.
Well, did the police come?
They did, yes.
And you don't remember that?
I don't remember that.
Were you taken to a hospital?
I was.
You have the... No, it's not alleged. This is a police report. I'm asking you. What kind of narcotics were found in your car?
They said that they found a round blue pill that had an M30 on it. That's what it stated.
Sarah, do me a favor.
Sure.
Look up under illegal drugs, M30.
So, M30.
Look up this name, Percocet. Mm-hmm. You smoke Percocet? How do you smoke Percocet? That's the only thing you remembered. You didn't remember the accident. Patient remembers smoking Percocet pill just prior to allegedly passing out and crashing her vehicle. That's what they say from your doctor.
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
That's what they're saying. The history is provided by the patient. The history is limited by condition of the patient. History is limited because the patient does not remember the actual automobile accident. Remembers smoking Percocet, so happened to have found this blue pill in your console in your car?
That's what they are saying.
Okay. You actually know you could have killed yourself. Yeah. Okay. And you don't remember anything about it because that's what you told them. You don't remember anything about anything after you smoked the little blue pill, which is what they said. So your car was moved. Okay, great. Have you had the car fixed?
Just the back tail light that I had to put it on. I was trying to fix it, but don't have any money to do it.
Sarah, look up, please, would you?
I'm looking it up right now.
Oh, great. Thank you. Oh, it's a 21-year-old car. It's got 226,000 miles on it. How much did you pay for it, sir?
I paid 10.
We're not going to spend 7 to fix it.
But that's how much it costs.
You find somebody to do it less.
Well, now I am without a car.
You're not without a car, sir. You put on the taillight so that you could drive it. This car is not drivable.
That car was dragged. That back axle, it shakes. I can drive it in
Between 2,000
and
and 5,000.
And passed out in her car, and you were not at fault. It's not windfall day. If you can buy the car for $2,000, buy an old 22-year-old car for $2,000. She's not paying you $7,000 to fix a
$2,500 and $5,000 based off of a 250,000 mile 2002 Toyota.
So you have to find somebody who's going to fix your car for $3,000, sir. That's $1,000 more than you could buy it for. We're done here. Judgment for the plaintiff.
This court is adjourned.
I would remember if I hit a car, and I didn't.
She ran into my car, run into a garage.
I know exactly what I took, and it definitely wasn't narcotics.
That area that I was living in, it's a really bad area. A lot of drugs are going on over there.
I'm very, very lucky. I'm very blessed. Like she said. No, over
22-year-old car with 275,000 miles on it. And I looked it up, and I even priced it on the positive end, the private party value, not a trade-in, and so forth. $7,000 he was comfortable asking the court for a car that's not even worth $7,000.
Yeah, he'll buy.
Cardi Moran for television damage caused during an argument.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, everyone.
Case 2144, Paramount versus Morgan.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Paramount, you and the defendant had been friends.
Yes.
And according to what I read, there was a falling out, which you will tell me about briefly. Subsequently, and without too much time having passed, you decided to conduct an intervention, a drug intervention, with the defendant.
Yes.
And it is your claim that during that drug intervention, she damaged your television set, and you want her to pay for a new TV. That's what your case is about. The defendant has a cross complaint. She says she's missing some sort of a speaker. I don't know what that is. And for the emotional distress that she suffered as a result of this intervention. So I have a couple of questions, just preliminarily. How long have you known each other?
Over 20 years.
Friends?
Yes, best friends. Former best friends.
Former best friends. But there came a time, according to your complaint, that there was a falling out. And when was that?
That was in May of this year.
And what was the falling out about?
It was about our mutual friend and...
This gentleman?
Yes.
What about your mutual friend?
He was in the hospital, and we were all taking care of him. And she felt adamant to tell me that I need to do certain things for him. And I was letting her know that if he needs to tell me he needs my help, he can tell me.
Okay, there were several people looking after him while he was in the hospital, taking turns. Is that right?
Yes.
And she was telling you things that you should be doing for him, and you said to her, if he wants me to do something, let him tell me, you don't direct me.
Correct.
Okay. Tell me the next thing that happened that brings us to court today.
Well, after that, in May, I blocked her. We didn't speak.
Did you go to visit him?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. And did you?
Yes.
So you both did. Okay, so you blocked her in May. Then what's the next thing that happened?
Now we're in September, and this was...
And between May and September, you haven't seen her?
Haven't seen her.
Okay.
And now it's September. It's Labor Day weekend, and our friend, as we've been friends for so long, we talked and kind of mended.
Okay.
Okay, so I unblocked her. And then on that Sunday, September 4th, she calls me at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I guess she still felt uneasy about, you know, us not talking for so long, that she demanded an apology from me.
She called you early in the morning demanding an apology for what?
For basically just, I was in the wrong of not listening to her about our friend.
Okay, and then what happened?
So I refused to give her an apology. I said, we can move past it, but I'm not apologizing, which she got upset again and hung up the phone on me. And after that, she basically called a family member of mine.
Not basically.
Sorry.
You say that she placed a call to a family member.
Yes.
Okay, and you can't tell me what that family member told you because that's hearsay. You
Correct.
understand that. Okay, so she called a family member, and that was on September 4th.
Yes.
Okay, the family member called you.
The family member actually...
Did what?
Actually lives with me. So they didn't call me.
Okay, well, you can tell me the relationship.
It's just family.
Okay, family member who lives with you, and?
Yes. So she was calling that family member, asking for...
You can't tell me what any of that was about.
I'm sorry. So after the conversation with the family member told me what she said. I know, I'm not saying the conversation.
Absolutely right.
So I told Brandon what she said, and we thought at the time, let's have an intervention.
Okay. Now, so without giving any credibility to any out-of-court statements, I assume by the word intervention, you had a suspicion that the defendant was using drugs or alcohol.
Yes.
Before that, before September 4th.
For a very long time.
Okay. Did you ever discuss the drug use with her?
Yes.
Well, you can tell me what those discussions were like. What kind of drugs were you afraid she was using?
I prefer not to say.
Well, you can't not say. That's what this is all about. You wanted to have an intervention. You didn't want to have an intervention because she was having caramel-covered popcorn. There was a controlled substance, I assume, that you were afraid she was using.
Yes.
Which was what?
Cocaine.
Have you ever seen her using cocaine?
Yes.
Did you ever use cocaine with her?
Yes.
Between May and September, had you ever used cocaine with her?
No.
So it was before that?
Yes.
His name is Brandon?
Yes.
Had Brandon ever used cocaine with the two of you?
No.
Did you ever see Brandon use cocaine?
No.
Okay. So you, who had used cocaine with her, decided to have an intervention with Brandon?
Yes.
What do you do for a living?
I'm an inbound call agent. I sell tickets.
Okay. And what does Brandon do?
He's disabled.
And who was going to be at this intervention?
It was myself, Brandon, and another mutual friend.
Mutual friend. Now, this mutual friend, whose name I will not have you state, have you ever seen that mutual friend use any sort of controlled substance? Answer the question.
Yes.
Yes. So now you have two people who've used controlled substance, one who has not, to your knowledge, doing an intervention.
Correct.
Okay, and do you know what an intervention is?
Yes.
What is it?
It's basically a meeting of the minds of having a discussion with one person about an issue that...
And who's there?
Who's there?
Yeah.
Oh, I would say trusted people that I would feel that they were...
Sarah, I want you to look up the word intervention and read me the very, very simplistic definition of an intervention.
From the Mayo Clinic, an intervention is a carefully planned process that may be done by family and friends in consultation with a doctor or professional, such as a licensed alcohol and drug counselor, or directed by an intervention professional called an interventionalist.
Okay, so was it on that same day that you decided to have an intervention?
Yes.
Okay, so let's start with the word well-planned, not as a result of a conversation that you have with somebody. And it's a well-planned event done in conjunction with very often relatives or close family who have a concern that something is out of control, some abusive behavior that's related to either alcohol or other controlled substances, in conjunction with a licensed professional where everything is synchronized but managed by a professional. Do you understand?
Yes, this was a bad plan.
There was no plan. It was a plan made because you were annoyed. Usually people who are involved in thinking about an intervention have nothing but love in their heart for the person who needs that intervention, but they have a plan. You didn't have a plan.
Yes,
you kidnapped her into your house.
Jennifer Paramon claims her former friend, Cardi Moran, broke her television. Cardi is countersuing for emotional distress.
Now, you were annoyed at the conversation, so what you did was not really an intervention. What did you think was going to happen at the end of this intervention? What was supposed to happen to her? According to what I read, you called her, or someone called her, probably your family member, called her with regard to these drugs that she wanted to purchase. Is that what happened?
Yes.
And said, I have them come to the house.
Yes.
Okay, so that's not a giant leap. You have to put that together. So she calls your family member for some cocaine. You arrange for an intervention. Your family member calls her at your request and says, come to the house. So that's what happened.
Yes.
Okay, but she was lured to your apartment.
Yes. Yes, I was.
Yes.
By whom?
By other
Well, who
mutual
called
friends.
her and said, come over?
Who called her?
Yes.
We were already going out. She was already going out with Brandon.
Just a second. She was already going out with Brandon.
Yes. And she decided to come to where I live to come pick up these drugs. Because when she found out that basically the setup was for her to get her to my house. So I told my family member to tell her that we did have it.
Oh, just a second. That's what I said. So she was lured to your house.
Yes.
Where you were going to do what with her? What happened when you got to your house?
Basically, just talk.
Not basically.
Sorry.
Not basically. You lure somebody to the house. She's come to the house now expecting, let us say, expecting to buy drugs or get drugs. She gets there and realizes that that's not going to happen, that there are other people that that's not going to happen. So tell me what happened when she walked in the house. That's what your case is.
Well, when she walked in the house, I immediately tried to give her a hug, and she was upset.
No, you immediately tried to give her a hug. What did you say?
I didn't say anything. I just opened arms, and she said, no, it's fake, backing away.
It's fake. What's
Yes.
fake?
My hug.
Okay, so she backed away.
Yes.
And
it just started off with
No. Somebody had to say something to her. Somebody had to say this is an intervention. Somebody had to say why she was there. She eventually was going to say, where are the drugs? But you have to tell me what happened.
Yes, when she walked
in, you went to give her a hug, pushed you away. Then what? Come on, this was an intervention.
Yes. So we couldn't even get to the part of this is an intervention.
How could you get to an intervention? You don't know what an intervention is.
Well, we couldn't get to a part of let's talk. She immediately said she was being set up. This is a setup with arguments back and forth.
Well, what were the arguments back and forth?
The back and forth arguments.
She said, I'm being set up. Somebody said to her, this is an intervention.
We didn't get to that part.
Well, what is the setup that she was talking about?
I don't know why she said...
Well, it was a setup.
It was a setup. It was a setup.
Yeah, so I want to know what your end game was.
The end game was, we have been friends for so long. Her getting to my house, yes, we did lie and say, yes, there was drugs at my house. But she already knew from how we're all there that there was no drugs. She was upset. She was irate. She was bringing up the argument that we had earlier in the morning.
So this wasn't an intervention for drugs or alcohol?
It was an intervention for drugs and alcohol.
Oh, okay. Then I'm asking you, not what happened, what was your end game?
The end game was to have a conversation with her about how much drugs she was doing because it changed her mood. It made her angry.
Well, did you have a program for her to go to? Did you have a program to take her to? Had you spoken to a professional? Had you done anything?
No.
Okay. And when she was there, according to you, she was in your house with 3 other people?
Myself and Brandon and another mutual friend.
So with 3 other people,
yes.
So she was there with 3 other adults.
Yes.
And she was lured there under false pretenses.
Yes.
And what she did, according to you, was pick up a chair and throw it at you, or threw it at a television set, breaking the television set.
She didn't throw it at me.
What did she do?
She threw it directly at my television.
Lucky she didn't throw it at you?
I wish she would have.
That's
exactly what she did.
Just a second. You're lucky. You can't do what you did. That's almost like kidnapping. If you're having a serious intervention, you have to sit down, have a working plan, what happened, have the right in your heart, have the right messaging. Your messaging was all wrong. Usually people who are involved in thinking about an intervention have nothing but love in their heart for the person who needs that intervention, and they seek professional help in order to get that person professional help. But they have a plan. You didn't have a plan.
Yes,
you kidnapped her. This is dismissed.
But, Your Honor, I have it all on video.
Did she break your TV?
Yes.
I'm going to look at the video. Your case is still going to be dismissed. I believe she broke your TV. Show me the video. I believe it.
And I also have
I believe
the
that
pictures.
I believe that you're lucky that's all she did in order to get out of your apartment. Did she ultimately leave your apartment?
Forcefully,
Yes.
I kicked her out.
So forcefully, you tricked her into coming in, and then you kicked her out?
Yes, after breaking my property.
Okay.
Why would you like I squirt the dog? I cannot.
I said, Jack, are you serious?
I'm ready.
Are you serious?
Why am I being recorded?
Just a second. I don't know why you're being recorded. In any event, as I said, your case is dismissed. Fix your own TV. You have a counterclaim.
Yes.
And your counterclaim, I don't know what this speaker is. What is a speaker?
A speaker, you connect your phone to Bluetooth and you hear music on it.
Okay, so what was it doing at her house?
Shh. We were supposed to be hanging out. So I was supposed to be hanging out with Brandon and another mutual friend. I didn't know we were going to stay at Jennifer's house.
Okay, I just want to know what... You brought the speaker?
Yeah, a speaker.
And you left it there?
I didn't leave it there. My things were scattered. When she was kicking me out, my things were scattered, getting kicked into the hallway.
When amateurs decide to do an intervention, any negative consequence that flows from that, you just have to accept.
But that's reason for her to break my stuff?
Absolutely. It would have been reason to her to break everything in your apartment to get out.
Jennifer Paramon has accused her former friend, Cardi Moran, of breaking her television. Cardi claims Jennifer caused emotional distress after being tricked by Jennifer.
Okay. Did you look for the speaker?
Yeah, I looked everywhere in the hallway.
Do you have her speaker?
There was never a speaker.
Did you see a speaker?
No,
Okay, there's no speaker. Now let's talk about your emotional situation. You got to this, I can't even call it intervention.
Trap.
Trap. That's a good word.
There you go.
That's a good word. Thank you. And tell me what happened when you got there.
When I got there, I asked the family
You were tricked and that this was a trap.
Yes.
That's what it was.
I realized that maybe 1 minute. Okay.
That's what it was. Got in there, and it was an uneasy feeling. You realized that it was a trick to get you there. It was a trap. I want you to tell me what happened when you got inside.
Jennifer starts to walk up to me, like, with her arms open, real slow motion, like, Cardi, I'm sorry. You know, we should talk about this. We're friends. In that same tone. And I'm like, yo, really? You're being fake. I don't really want this. You know, I came here to get what I wanted, and let's go. But Brandon is getting all comfortable. He is disabled, so, you know, all right, fine. He's got to get comfortable. So we start arguing, me and Jennifer, we start arguing.
About what?
About the conversation that me and her had earlier. You know, she said that I should just get over what she said initially for me getting upset.
Okay, so the initial conversation didn't have anything to do with drugs?
We never talked about drugs. When I got to the house, I never had anything to do with them. I was talking to the family member, what I came to get. But once me and her start arguing, I tell Brandon, like, all right, can we go now? Like, are we done here? Like, let's leave. I want to go.
So what happened? When you said to Brandon, let's go, I want to get out of here, what happened?
She squirts me with a water gun. She tells me, oh, I'm going to squirt you like I squirt the dogs.
Brandon, stand up. Your last name is?
Milner.
I want you to describe this water gun.
To be honest, Judge, I don't remember seeing a water gun.
It's in the video. If you listen to the video, she says it. I'm going to squirt you
Brandon,
like I squirt
before
the
I look
dogs.
at this again, you were there in the room.
Yes.
I'm going to give you one, before I look at the video again, whether you saw her squirt the water gun or not. Did you see a water gun that day?
No, I didn't.
No, okay. So let's play this and let me hear what you're referring to. Okay, Sarah, you have a much more keen sense of hearing than I do.
I'm going to squirt you like I squirt that dog.
Okay. She's got younger ears than I do. What?
I never squirted her with the
Whether you did or not, are you telling me that?
No, I
that
said
Sarah
it.
heard. Okay, so you did squirt it.
But
you
I didn't
didn't say
squirt
it.
her.
I'm going to squirt you like I squirt the dog. Yeah. Okay, but that's not an intervention.
We were arguing at that point. It was already past the
That's because you lured her there.
intervention.
Because you did the wrong thing.
Yeah, it was a horrible plan. It was horrible.
Oh, yeah, they're absolutely right. And it caused a great deal of distress. I want to know how you got out of the apartment.
I was kicked out. I was pushed out. My things were thrown into the hallway.
At what point did that happen? Is that after?
Literally 3 seconds after.
After the TV was broken?
Yes.
You were pushed out the door?
Yes.
Well, that's some really good intervention. How long were you in the house?
A total 6 minutes, maybe.
Where did you go from there?
I got picked up and went home.
Got picked up by whom?
2 hours later by my sister-in-law.
Don't make anything up.
No.
Who picked you up?
My sister-in-law.
Okay.
And my daughter and her boyfriend.
In that 2-hour period,
Yes.
you must have waited somewhere for them.
Yes, I waited in her hallway.
Okay, so you waited. When they came to pick you up, was there any further conversation with her or Brandon? They just picked you up?
Well, between those 2 hours, there was conversations between my daughter and Brandon, my daughter and Jennifer. Everyone was talking.
Well, where was your daughter?
She was home.
So it was on the phone that they were talking?
Yes, and she was pleading with them to give me my stuff back so I could just leave.
The cross complaint, or the countersuit, is seeking $1,800. It's seeking $1,800 not only for the emotional distress that was caused to the defendant, but also for a speaker. They don't have a speaker. How much was the speaker so that I can deduct that?
It was $129.
Okay, so we're really talking about $1,700. Okay, and that's the amount that you want for your emotional distress.
Yes, Your Honor.
For that 6 minutes. I don't blame you. I think it's worth at least that. I think that when amateurs decide for all the wrong reasons to do an intervention, and absolutely, it would have been reason to break everything in your apartment to get out. Absolutely. You are holding her there. Yes, just a second. You brought her there under false pretenses. That's what you did. And you had somebody else there as well. And according to you, you wrote it was an intervention. But it wasn't an intervention. It was whether you wanted to
For a 20-year relationship, intervention may be a wrong
Well,
word,
it
but
was a very,
supposed to be
it was a very,
conversation.
very wrong word, and you don't trick somebody to come to your house with something else in mind, even if it's to buy drugs. So I'm awarding you $1,700 on the counterclaim for your emotional distress. Your claim for the broken TV is dismissed. We're done.
This court is adjourned.
I have no thoughts.
I'm happy with her decision, but it's bittersweet because these are my friends.
Just have a conversation about certain situations we were having.
Her intention, I don't think it was to make me stop doing what they all do anyway.
I didn't keep her, that's the thing. She walked in freely, walked out.
That's the betrayal.
Yeah, this is over.
It's just time to go separate ways. You know, I lived and I learned. Those are the people that I grew up with. You know, those turn-up days are over anyway, so.
I think this whole situation was a perfect example of what my dad calls lack of two-step thinking.
Okay.
So we can already agree the intentions were not great. They were just maybe potentially rekindling a friendship, and that's not exactly the person you want leading your intervention, if that's what they wanted to call it. And also, what was your plan? If it went the way that the plaintiff at least claims she was intending it, was to get her friend help, say that the defendant broke down and cried and admitted to having a problem and really wanting help. Where was the help? There was no help.
That's true.
So I agreed with you that the plaintiff deserved any amount of damage that happened from having such a lack of a plan.
It was a lack of a plan. She lured her there.
Yeah, I mean, just a messed up situation all in all. And you really have to be coming from the right place to do something like that. And I think neither of them were.
Xin chào các bạn, chào mừng các bạn đã đến với những vlog tô màu tranh của mình. Hôm nay thì mình cùng với các bạn sẽ tô màu cho bức tranh về bông hoa nha. Đây là bức tranh của mình ngày hôm nay. Bây giờ thì các bạn hãy cùng mình tô màu cho bức tranh này nha. Trước tiên thì mình sẽ tô phần nhụy hoa nhé. Nhụy hoa thì mình sẽ nghĩ là mình sẽ tô màu đỏ. Nó cứ li ti nhỉ. Giờ mình sẽ tô đến những chiếc lá nhé. Những chiếc lá nhỏ nhỏ thì mình sẽ tô màu xanh nhạt nhạt, còn những chiếc lá to hơn thì mình sẽ sử dụng màu xanh đậm để phân biệt là những chiếc lá non và lá già.
This young lady